Okay, and welcome to episode 24 of Shockwaves. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Galluzzo. Sitting with me is Mr. Elric Kane.
I'm here.
You're here in a Shockwaves shirt.
Yeah, it's my third one.
It's like
I haven't cleaned any of them. It's like I want one for every day.
I see. You just keep wearing them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm one of those people who's not ashamed to wear his brand to the place he does it. You know what I mean? Now, some people wouldn't do that.
You can't wear the band to the concert, Elric.
I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah.
I'll just do what I'll beat to my own drum.
Fair enough. And also with us is Rebekah McKendry.
What's up, guys?
Howdy.
I'm feeling better this week. Are you feeling better, Rob?
Yes, we are slowly recovering. This is our post-Halloween blues. You know what? I don't even have the blues. I'm just kind of glad it's over.
I'm tired.
I think the
really
same
tired.
thing. Like, I had somebody message me on Facebook today and like, are you sad October's over? And I'm like, honestly, it's a relief because we burn all cylinders the entire way through October. So by the time that Halloween night finally rolls around, Elric and I were talking today where at Halloween, both of us were like, we're not wearing costumes out. We've done that all month. I've done 4 costumed events.
Well, plus, according to your daughter Marnie, isn't Halloween your job all year long?
I do Halloween. I go to work at Halloween every day.
Work at Halloween every day.
Well, it's true. Unlike people, everyone who listens to this probably watches horror all year round.
Yeah.
But there are humans. There are some humans out there who I guess save it for October. And I'm always like, oh, really?
My final tally was 53 movies in
Pretty
October.
good.
Wow.
I didn't count.
Yeah.
But it had to be over 40.
There was a guy I used to work with at Fangoria who referred to Halloween night as amateur night. We do it all year long, but Halloween nights, it's like amateur night.
That's New
we'll
Year's
give you
for me.
that.
I do want to say congrats to 3 guys. I don't have your names right in front of me, but I know at least 3 people who did just my 31 list, and there's way more than that who did a mixture of all of ours.
Oh,
which is amazing.
So multiple people who did mixture. I will not be giving you anything if you mix it. That's up to Bekah and Rob. But those 3 who did just mine, I will hook you up.
It depends. We'll see. Reach out to us on Twitter. And we'll see if we can work
tell us
out.
that you did it, and we'll see
What we really want to know is which of those movies, were cool revelations to you, or a movie that was new. I definitely got a few people saying they hadn't seen Pin before, and that which I'm always happy to share the Pin love.
Messaging me about Ticks, and that was what I was excited of because they'd never seen it before, and they were like, I can't believe you put this on your list. I kind of begrudgingly watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this is great.
That was the point. It was hopefully we hit a few of the classics and recommended some stuff that you probably wouldn't have watched otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do these. You don't. None of us probably do it for ourselves. But I'm thinking actually because I read that somebody did this, and I was like, oh, that's a great idea, which is to list for myself next year 31 I haven't seen that I need to catch up on.
Joe Madry does that.
And he did the modern thing, which I love that he did that.
I'm so undisciplined when it comes to that because I'll actually go through my film library and be like, you know what? I've never watched this DVD. I'm watching it tomorrow night. And then as soon as tomorrow night rolls around, I'm like, you know what? I'd just rather watch the Monster Squad.
Yeah, it's very much by gut. Yeah.
It's by gut. It's tough. And also you have to the way Joe curated it was, I lent him a lot of my movies because he's not big into horror comedy because it's very rare that people do it right. But he said, he's like, you know what? I appreciated you forcing those movies on me because it broke up the vibe. You watch 2 or 3 pretty straight horror movies in a row. You kind of want something that's tonally a little different and
especially
fun.
if you're going to do it for 30 one
sure.
episode. No, I saw that he watched The Canal, the one that I had said was scary. It's a good way to do it because he didn't get to see a lot of the last films of the last few years, which is great. But I feel like there's, for me, and I actually did it on a couple that I'm going to talk about today, but I forced a couple of the old black and white ones I hadn't seen that I just, it's a good time to watch that.
Yeah, of course,
And that's what I'm going to be, my challenge for November, because of the Noirvember label, is to just go, I'm going to go all in on at least a couple a week, black and white, older titles. I've got all the Val Ludens, not all of them, but 5 of them recorded from this month of TCM. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to kind of start with the Val Ludens and then move to a couple fringe ones I've never caught. I've seen most of the Val Ludens, but, rewatching will be great.
Seventh Victim.
Yeah, Seventh Victim is
amazing.
One. Yeah, that's a good one. But so that's where I'm going to go for November to keep my horror streak, but also watch some stuff that I tend to put those off.
Yeah.
Because they're older and,
And I plugged it last week, but since you're moving into the 50s, you need to see Dementia. It's by far my favorite 1950s movie, not Dementia 13.
Yeah, not the
but
film.
it's good.
If I can find it.
I think they have a copy at Eddie Brandt's. Okay. I'm pretty sure I've rented it there
That's where
before.
you can find anything.
Yeah.
But so off the top, let's do a few different announcements, if you will, show announcements.
Uh-oh, I don't like the sound of this. You got me nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Oh, no.
Here's the first and the most important one.
Okay.
Special thanks to Patrick Bromley over at F This Movie. Always been so tremendously supportive of the show, and a lot of people have come to us through him. He surprised me and wrote a top 10 Shockwaves episodes, or I think 10 you should listen to.
Yeah.
He did that tradition with Killer POV as well. And it's always fun for us to figure out or hear what other people respond to in terms of that. But
I also got turned onto his show by that list because I really didn't listen to a lot of podcasts till this year, really, because of my commute. So I've listened to about, the last 3 of his Halloween ones, the Beyond with our friend Jackson Stewart.
Yeah, I listened to that one too.
And it's been great. And so it's really fun to get, even though I've known Patrick in this online way for a year, I hadn't really gotten to his show yet.
Yeah.
And now I'm a fan of the show.
I'll also mention he's now writing for Blumhouse.com. Because
right.
I read some of his stuff on his blog and was like, dude, you need to be with us. So,
yes. No, he's a good writer as well. And, well, anyway, we were really appreciative of it. But in the comments, as always happens, people were, I don't want to say complaining, but voicing their questioning the inclusion or the kind of changing of our chemistry, if you will, because Ryan is part of the show. So let me officially say that Ryan Turk is our 4th co-host.
He's a co-host.
He's a member.
Yes.
Ironically enough, I'm announcing this on an episode he is not a part of.
Yeah, Ryan's on a film
co-host.
set this week.
No, he actually has work, and that will happen occasionally. Look, we did 140 episodes as Killer POV. We are proud of it, and we appreciate it. But, look, as is the case with you and all of your jobs, you evolve, you change as people, you try to keep things interesting and exciting. And now, this is Shockwaves. It's a different show. We're still here. Ryan, we didn't know his involvement initially. We were just kind of winging it.
We just kind of wanted him in.
Officially, we said to him, he can come anytime he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he would come when he could fit in, which was a lot of the time he couldn't, and you were going to make it more of just a little segment of a pick.
Of music and stuff.
But the reality
now we
is,
record in front of his office.
Yeah, so, he's literally 3 feet from us right now. So if he wasn't in New Orleans.
This is very behind the scenes-y, where people don't know how podcasts work, but, largely Rob had to book, 140 guests on the old show, which means we've gone through a large part of our mutual Rolodex.
Sure.
And you get to a certain point where it's tough. And so Ryan also, has, new people he knows in a whole nother world. So it's adding another, a lot of the great people we got.
Ryan has been responsible for a lot of the great guests we've had on Shockwaves. Yeah. Plain and simple. Just by sending out an email and making it happen. So
we love Turek and the boys with us.
He's a part of the show. And look, we're going to keep evolving the show any way we can to a way that makes sense both to us and to you guys, the listener.
Yeah.
And so, as you'll probably notice as you downloaded this episode, it's a little shorter than the average episode. But the reason being is because we're going to try this out. We've been kind of talking to people and analyzing things, and we want to do what's best for the show and for our audience and give it to them in a way that we think will make sense. So a lot of people tell us that they love the first half of the show where we talk about what we've seen. Other people prefer the interview portion. Everyone has their favorite part of the show.
Mm-hmm. And we always hear, I wish the first part was longer. I wish you guys weren't rushing through it to get to the interview, things like that.
So starting with this episode, you will now get Shockwaves twice a week, meaning that we will spend a little bit more time on the first half of the show where we get to talk about what we've seen and kind of concentrate on that.
And try new things.
And we're going to try some new stuff, which we'll be trying tonight. We're going to try a game in a little while.
Yes. Yeah, we want to do,
some news and stuff.
So every week it'll be a little bit different, and you'll get the same introduction you always get, but we want to, spice it up. And, the reason a lot of people were very responsive to the bonus episode I did with Ryan and Tony Giles where we played the Halloween game, and it's like, let's do more of that. Let's try to figure out interactive things. So that's all we're doing is we're splitting it up so you get it twice a week. The interview will be the second part of the episode, which I believe will drop on
Wednesdays.
Monday.
Thank you.
And this on Friday.
And this on Friday. Yeah.
And the other thing is look, everybody, including in this room, listens to podcasts in a different way. And to some people think it's too short. Some people think it's too long. I always tend to find a 2+ hour episode to be overwhelming. But it's kind of like if I look on my phone one day and I have an hour-long thing, it's like, all right, that's about my commute back and forth here. And then 2 days later, I have another one that's an hour long. You're still getting the same amount of show. We're just going to try to give you more.
Yeah.
And what this also enables us to do is you'll definitely get 2 a week. And whenever we're capable of, we want to do little bonus things, even if they're short. Like Elric might want to go off for 20 minutes to talk about a specific possession. So you'll finally get the possession episode.
It's time, Rob. It's time.
I want to do music stuff. I love the music side, but I don't know if people want to listen to a whole episode of that. So that might be just a little bonus segment.
I love doing lists. So that's kind of my big forte on the site. So I would love to just spend like 10 minutes and go over my top 10 films from the 1950s. And, but maybe not everybody wants to listen to that. So you've got some variables now.
It'll all come up in the feed. Whether if you subscribe, you're going to get it all. So just bear with us. Don't freak out. Don't start going nuts on us on Twitter and be like, how could you change the show? Change is a good thing. And we just want to see.
It's more shockwaves.
Yeah, we want to see how it works. We're trying to give you more of the same show. So that's that. That said, let's talk.
There was so much going on this week because of Halloween and everything. So I'm excited to see what all you guys watched.
Yeah, you know what? I'll kick it off. Things get a little hectic towards the end of the month because obviously we've seen so much stuff. But I broke out a lot of horror anthologies. The one that I've already seen, I saw last year, I discovered it when Scream Factory put it out, is John Carpenter's Body Bags, which is my absolute favorite. It's just, I'm so glad that it's one of those gems that I got to see now as an adult. And my roommate walked in, he'd never seen it, and I sat him down, and it's so much fun. John's kind of the Crypt Keeper host in it, and he hosts 3 segments, and his direction, because he directs 2 of them, Toby Hooper directs a third, his direction is so sharp, and literally everybody you see in it is a cameo. So you'll see Wes Craven pop up, and then David Naughton, and then Robert Carradine, and like all these great faces, Mark Hamill. It's now officially become one of my Halloween traditions where I will definitely watch that one every year.
And I mean, and his aptitude for comedy in the second one with Stacy Keach is so good that it makes me go, good. I kind of wish there was more Carpenter comedies, because it's just a brilliant segment. I love that. But I agree. I think it's one of the best of the rediscoveries of those movies you saw. I did see young and was like, especially about the Mark Hamill story when I was young. And now I watch it and I'm like, that's a great, scary story. Like it's a really, it's actually some of Toby's better stuff,
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of it too. I'm on board.
Yes, I saw that one. And then a couple that I'd never seen before. One is an anthology called DEADTIME Stories from 1986. And I can talk about this now because Scream Factory has announced it as one of their upcoming titles. And the crew over there were kind enough to ask me if I'd do some of the interviews for it. So I got to interview the writer-director, Jeff Damal, and a lot of the cast, including Melissa Leo and Scott Valentine from My Demon Lover and Family Ties and all that. And you know what? It's always been one of those hard-to-find movies. I got to see the HD transfer they did for it. It looks spectacular. And it's really cool. It's 3 segments, and it's, kind of framed around a little boy that can't get to sleep because he keeps thinking that he sees a monster in his closet. So he keeps calling his dad or his babysitter, I can't remember, to come in and tell him stories. And he's like, well, what do you want to hear? He's like, well, just make something up. So it's really fun. The tone of all of them is slightly off. So the first one's about witches, and the second one's about a werewolf. And then the third one is kind of like a weird Goldilocks retelling, but like in a really bizarre, comical way.
I remember that one. That's the only one. I remember the cover, and I remember that last story.
Yeah, and it's for what it is, a mid-'80s horror anthology of the VHS generation. I think it's really a cool movie, and it's going to be one of those things that Scream Factory puts out that is going to be a fun rediscovery for people that remember it, and a cool new discovery for people that have never seen it before. And I was really taken aback. The interviews are going to be so much fun because this is all those people like Melissa Leo, Scott Valentine, long before he did Family Ties. This was like their first movie together, all like young, struggling people in New York who have a great deal of affection for each other. That's why they all showed up to be a part of the special features, because it really, you could tell the camaraderie between them was really great, and it translates on screen. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
So that's a really cool one. And finally, another anthology that I'd never seen before called TRACT. This was on a double feature with Cherry Falls on DVD. Like the only way you can get Cherry Falls for up until that Blu-ray was as a double with this movie. And it's God, I lost the date. I feel like it's early 90s maybe, but it's the wraparound. It stars John Ritter. And so he's kind of like this real estate agent showing houses to this young couple. And of course, he has to divulge what happened in the house before. So all three segments are kind of like these horrible crimes that have taken place in each house that he shows them to. And it's pretty good. The first one was called Nightmare, and it's kind of like this. It had it's a very Tales from the Crypt kind of vibe where this woman is cheating on her husband, and then the lover comes in, and then he catches them, and then it turns kind of creep show where they kill the husband, and dump his body with his car, but like she kind of keeps seeing him, and then it's like, is it a nightmare? Is it really happening? Is he coming back? So it reminded me very much of Creep Show. The revelation is the second skit called Bobo, because it's about a little annoying killer monkey versus Bryan Cranston.
Wow.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Bryan Cranston is at top of his game versus a little monkey.
Little monkey. Is this like a real monkey or like
it's
a
real monkey?
mechanical
Oh, no, it's a real monkey. All right. So that one was pretty great. And then the final segment is called Come to Granny. And it's a slasher. It's really, really cool. It's like this young kid who goes to see a psychologist to say that he keeps seeing visions of the famed Granny slasher. It's a guy that wears like an old lady mask on to kill people, and he keeps vicariously living through his victims because he sees it. It's super cool. It's not a great anthology, but it's really good. And again, I think what we look for in these is enough good ideas to get us excited and keep watching.
Or one great story.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You got one great cast member, one great story.
Yeah.
I thought that one was super cool. I hope somebody like Scream picks it up and does a Blu-ray of it.
Nice.
So that's it for my anthologies.
What'd you do on Halloween night?
I just stayed in and watched movies. I always carve a pumpkin. I do the same thing. I watch Mad Monster Party. I carve a pumpkin. Yeah. And I just kept putting on movies. One was called The Monster Club, which Vincent Price, Donald Pleasance, another anthology, which I'd never seen. I thought that one was pretty cool. The most famous thing from that one, which is on YouTube, is like there's all these like weird party scenes at literally a quote unquote monster club. And it's like this woman dancer who starts to get like nude, but then it turns into a cartoon. And in the cartoon, she like pulls her skin off, and then it's a cartoon of a skeleton.
Oh,
it's like a famous GIF. But it's from the Monster Club.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And that's another one that's 3 segments, and it's pretty good. And I watched The Fog, which I said on our episode with Lee Winnell. I was like, you know what, and it feels like the perfect final Halloween movie to me.
I think I put it as my first of my 31 because it either way, it feels like it sets the tone
or closes
of that kind of vibe. That's interesting.
I also watched The Pit, which Ryan recommended last week.
So weird.
And
love that
man,
the bathtub scene, I just don't get it. It creeps me out.
I'm not even kidding. Every single Canadian is like that kid.
A sexual deviant?
Yeah, we're talking teddy bear and trolley dogs.
We're talking teddy bears. They're everywhere in Canada.
I thought that kid was a sexual deviant.
Yeah.
And really, it was a bizarre movie.
He's bizarre.
That movie is it's one of those special things. You're like, I don't know who made this or
we
why.
should feel fortunate it exists.
That's one film where I will listen to the commentary. First chance I get, I'm listening to that commentary.
It felt like an eternity. That's the other thing. It's a brisk 90 minutes that felt like an eternity.
And it's got like 4 different plots going on, all of which are like equally weird. Like the talking teddy bear, the kid himself is like fucked up. And
He's bizarre. He's bizarre.
It's a must-see. I completely love it.
Put that on the box. What did you guys see?
I saw, I set the tone the night before. I watched Wolfman. Hadn't seen it in...
Original.
Literally the Blu-ray. Hadn't seen that in maybe 20 years. I mean, it's one of those ones I just hadn't revisited. I'd seen some like imagery from it lately. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of want to revisit that. And I was glad I did. It was definitely one of the best of the Universal films, I think. The funny thing I had forgotten was how suave Lon Chaney is at the start. He's not somebody I think of as suave. I think of him as almost a bit fumbly.
Yeah, and a little tortured.
Yeah, and he's a big guy, and I think about Spider Baby and movies like that. So in this film at the start, he's just so suave. He's really good. He's always, he's hitting on the girl training. And Claude Rains is his dad. And then Bela Lugosi is Bella, the fortune teller.
Yeah.
And there's this moment where I wanted somebody to make a gif of it so bad, which is just, he looks at the woman's palm, and the reaction he has to like her fate is hilarious. It's just like him going, oh, fuck.
Right.
And it's so good. I just want to see that face. But it's just a beautiful little movie, and I love that it's like 75 minutes,
Oh yeah,
it's shot gorgeous. I do think I don't always think Blu-ray is a game changer with movies. It's usually a big step. But with these, it's a game changer.
With black and white movies,
the depth.
There's something about them that pop on Blu-ray.
Yeah, they really do, especially movies you've only seen on TV or on tape or something. So for me, it was the depth and the sets were gorgeous. I thought it was a great movie, a lot of fun. And then on Halloween night, the only movie I did stick to of my 31 movies, there's going to be a shock. Get ready to be shocked.
You watched Possession?
No, I did not. That was not on my 31.
That's not a Halloween movie.
No, it's not. It really isn't. That's a Christmas movie.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, exactly. I watched The Thing from Another World.
Oh, me too.
Because it was the movie they watch in Halloween.
Yes.
So it's the right one. But here's the shock. Never seen it before.
Really?
Guess what? Neither have I.
Dude.
What?
I've only seen bits and pieces
Yeah, of course
it.
I've seen bits, yeah.
And my friend Scott Reynolds had a backyard. He lives in South Pasadena, which is where a lot of Halloween was shot.
Yeah.
So we went, I took my roommate to see a lot of the spots where the original Halloween was shot. And we watched Thing from Another World because it's in Halloween, right followed by Halloween.
Nice.
And it was great. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
my mom
it's a
used to
nice
show
one.
me that one all the time when I was a kid. Like, it was like a staple in her house. And I was always confused because the Thing is a plant.
He's
Like,
like,
he's like a vegetable.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell when you look at him, but yes,
I mean, he
is.
looks like a monster, but I always like, but he's a vegetable.
Yeah.
It's
you know
an
what stood out to me is the writing.
Yeah.
The dialogue for a movie of that age.
That's the tip, because Hawks' name isn't on as director. But the dialogue is so Hawksian. It's like very curt, clipped dialogue.
Fast.
Everyone reacts in like really funny ways.
What are you saying? I'm saying this. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also, and everyone's kind of making sly jokes at each other. And you're like, even at the end, like where you're building to a climax and you've just dealt with a monster, they're kind of like, oh, well, why don't we go upstairs? And they're like slyly grinning at each other.
Every
and you're like, okay.
line is a line.
Yeah.
It's like, there's never just like information to move us from one scene to another. It's like every single line.
And there's a
is
lot of characters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so different than the other thing. That's why it just shows what a great remake it was to go in that different direction. And they do pair really nicely as two movies you could watch together and have a really good time. I really liked it, and it's one of those. I don't know why. There's a handful of classics like that I haven't seen, largely because I would be like waiting to see it on a screen. But this felt perfect, time. And I was so glad I did it. It was right after we finished trick or treating. It was late at night. Halloween, closed it out and watched it.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Had a good time to do that. So that was a lot of fun. And then a couple of the new things, just a couple. You might have seen this tweet. It was 1 p.m. on a Friday, and I'm leaving work, and I see the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer in 2K is playing at the Laemmle. And I thought, you know what? I'm closing out my Friday because that's a movie. I saw it on VHS, haven't seen it since. All the main things stick in my head, the shocking John McNaughton's Henry. And so I was like, you know what? This movie's never going to be playing in a cinema again. Yeah. So I just went straight from work on a Friday. Best decision I've ever had. It was like 80-minute movie. This movie was so cool to see in that context because there was only about 6 people there.
You drove all the way to the Laemmle?
No, I work near.
Oh, okay.
And man, 3 times in this movie I heard, "Oh, Jesus Christ, no," and "Oh my God, don't do, oh my God," and other things that I have not heard in a movie. It's different when you see like The Conjuring, everyone's like, and scared. This was more like absolute palpable shock and like grotesque.
So you were watching with newbies.
Yeah, and there were older people too. They were probably, looking around, they were like 60-year-olds and stuff who were watching a movie in the middle of the day, called Henry, maybe with no context. But it was so cool to see a movie that, because it is fucked up and it's not like a movie I'll be rushing to see again quickly.
Yeah, once in a lifetime's kind of enough for
Well, but I
Henry.
do think seeing it like in this new pristine version, which doesn't overly clean it up, it's still a dirty, dark movie. It's meant to be. But I'll say one thing about the performances in this movie. I can't think of another horror film that fits the bill. Is they stop being performances while I'm watching this movie. There aren't many where it's so real. I mean, Towles is having fun. He's one of the most fun performances I've ever seen, and it's great because the first half you actually kind of like him. You don't really ever like Henry. You don't dislike him. He hasn't done anything like absolutely grotesque until the halfway point.
Yeah, they don't show it. Like it cross cuts. I remember it'll show like murder scenes, and then it'll show him like doing like driving, and then it'll show a woman playing a guitar. It'll show her dead,
it's the
and
result
then him
of what
playing
he's done.
the guitar. Yeah,
and so he's built as fairly charming but quiet and shy, but the midpoint, when it has this key scene that everyone always, discusses, it becomes so disgusting what they're capable. And in that sequence, it's the only sequence of found footage I've ever seen that's almost too much for me. Like when we're talking about Walking Dead last week, it's got nothing.
On that mid-sequence.
Because you're thinking and then when you start analyzing it, you go, that's an actress. even that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That an actress is even willing to go to what they are doing to her and the way it is, which is, it's a testament to the art form and trust and all that. But it is so intense. And then once you cross that threshold in the movie, it's a different movie in the second half. But it's actually like the body disposal stuff that, man, people, when he turns on his friend, people in the audience like couldn't even handle what they're seeing because the sounds. And it really like impressed me in a sense that like you can still shock people with an old film. But there's also I thought it was really funny because it's in Chicago and he walks into, after the woman wants to sleep with him, he walks into a liquor store and the guy's like, hey, how about them bears, eh? And he just turns to him and goes, fuck the bears. And he walks out. I was like, that's pretty good. That was a good little moment. And
wait till you see him in Bekah Experiment. He's fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, Rooker's always been
Rooker's
good. In Bekah Experiment, he has one of the best scenes in the movie. It's awesome.
And by the way, it was just announced. It's December 6th is that restored Blu-ray. Coming out from Dark Skies.
It really just it stops feeling like a performance. Because especially if you didn't know Rooker at the time, you'd be like, who is this guy? And it's kind of frightening because he's like a shark. That's the best way his performance is like something that's just circling around, looking, and then taking whatever it wants.
Yeah.
And then the last one I saw, which probably a lot of our listeners did because of our show a couple weeks ago, I saw I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, hugely divisive. I can tell. I kind of guessed that, but I didn't realize to what level. I will think this will probably be one of the most divisive online films of the year, I'm going to guess, because a lot of critics and people who like, arty horror films are going to really like it.
Yeah.
But people are going to fucking hate it on Netflix. This is going to probably be the worst reviewed film of the year, I would guess. Wow. I already saw a lot of anger building up because it's a very perfect, finely crafted, simple, slow movie. So
not a Netflix movie.
I mean, that's the irony. They spent a few $1 million making this movie.
And it seemed like it didn't matter. He got to make what he wanted
awesome.
to make.
Yeah.
And,
it's very experimental, the structure, but it's like a quiet ghost story that you would tell somebody under the covers, and it's perfect. Like for what he's doing, he's made a perfect movie. There's no chink in it. You're like, oh yeah, it's like a perfect little circle. It's very different from February in terms of the stakes are a lot higher, and I cared a lot more in February. I didn't care in this, but I also loved the little world I got to go into. And so I think it's a beautiful little film. I think it won't be for everyone, and a lot of people won't get 10 minutes in. You'll know straight away, though. Like, if you watch the first 5 minutes, you go, oh, it's this? Like, it's narrated. It's, it's just a different...
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
The fun part was the next day, which was just totally... The timing is just, totally weird. The next day after I watched this movie, I spent an hour talking about it with one of the main characters and the two stars of Saturday the 14th, both of them, Richard Benjamin and Paul Prentice.
I'm going to talk about in a moment.
Oh, really? I've never actually seen it, ironically, but I was going to a kid's birthday thing, and so I knew she was going to be there, and I was like, you know what? You're the awesome author from this movie, like the fictional author. Right. She's kind of like a Shirley Jackson. It's a very Shirley Jackson. Yeah, Paul Prentice. She plays the kind of author that the character is going to look after, and she hadn't been in a movie in almost 20 years, and they're old family friends of the Perkins, obviously, and it was so fun to give her, I was saying really great things. She was just lighting up and aging backwards. So she just felt like she aged backwards 20 years. In our conversation, she started talking about Oz and his vision, how exciting it was to be in this movie, and she just had a ball, and it was super fun to see her because she hadn't been in a movie in a long time. Stepford Wives she was in, and Catch-22. So it was a really fun. So I think for those people this is for, they're gonna love this movie.
Sure.
But and don't be put, if you don't love it, don't be put off when February comes. They are very different beasts. I would say that.
Okay.
Nice.
And Channel Zero, keep watching because it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I've got that on my list this week. Channel Zero is it's my jam this year.
Super weird.
I'm totally into it. I think we're only on episode 4.
Yeah, that was 4 last night.
But I heard that there's only going to be 6, and that breaks my heart because I really want it to keep going.
Well, I don't know, though. I'm kind of excited at the idea that the stories will change because with 6, you can make a perfectly... It's like making a movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the length of a longish movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I only watched the first episode and I liked it, but now that they're 4 in and it's only going to be 6, I think I'm going to save it for a nice long, marathon one.
Yeah, and I will say 3 was a bit plotty. Elric and I were talking about this earlier. It's a bit much we have to fit in all these plot points so we can move the story forward, but I've heard that the 4th one, which is sitting on my DVR at home, is amazing.
Yep, TV's doing good.
Yeah, I've been digging American Horror Story as well. So, and I was really upset there was no new Exorcist this week.
But coming up this Friday.
Damn
Today.
right. So this week, I have been cleaning out some of my DVDs and kind of going through and doing the why do I own this question because I need some bookshelf space so I can get more awesome DVDs. Thank you, Scream Factory. And every time they come out with something new, I'm like, I need more space. And so this past week, I was going through playing the Why Do I Own This Game, and I happened on a burned DVD, I don't even know where it came from, of Saturday the 14th Strikes Back. Oh. And I was like, I feel like I have to save this because it's never been on DVD. Like it died on VHS a long time ago. So then I put it in and realized that there's a lot of reasons why this one never made it to DVD. But I had really fond memories of Saturday the 14th, the original, which was produced by Julie Corman. This one's just all over the place. Like it's
Is this a Corman one too?
It's a sequel.
Yeah, it's
Strikes
a
Back?
sequel.
Oh my God.
Why not just Sunday the 15th? Just keep it going, you know?
No, and it's 9 years later. Like Saturday the 14th was made in 81, I think. It was like early 80s. And this is definitely like 88, 89 area. And there are jokes that you have no idea what they are. Like it feels like they were trying to do like an Airplane-esque spoof of like a haunted house film. But there are things that never get explained. Like the family keeps eating cookies for breakfast and they make jokes about it. But you're like, but why? I don't understand why. What is this referencing or
Are
a
any of
joke
the same
to?
people in it?
I don't think so.
No.
No. And it was just not.
I like the mystery of why it's even in your house.
Yeah, I know.
Like this weird
That's
unlabeled disc.
And because it's actually got a DVD cover, like somebody made, like printed out a cover, but then you open it up and it's just a burned DVD. And I was like, I don't know if like somebody gave this to me at a convention and was like, you need to check this out. Or sometimes people like send us stuff.
Yeah.
So I have no idea where the fuck it came from, but yeah. So that was on the list. And then after that, I watched, and this will not be one I'm getting rid of, but I have to say I'm a little mixed on it, Lady in White. And people love this. It was a little too saccharine for me. It felt so squeaky clean through the whole thing. I know.
It's about a child murderer.
And then
What's
the
the matter
child
with
murderer
you?
shows up. It was just
I
the
haven't
beginning.
seen that since like being 10 or something. When
But
I was
do you like Stephen King stuff?
And that's what
to me,
felt
it felt like a Stephen King
It felt
novel.
like Stephen King, but even safer. Like it was a more vanilla Stephen King. And that was only until the child murderer showed up. And then I was like, okay, I'm with you. But yeah, up to that point, it was like Stephen King, but whereas
There's nothing safe about King because he has a car that'll kill you, a dog that'll kill you, a clown.
And I think that was my point, was like in Stephen King, you always have this sweet little kind of bucolic, idyllic, rosewatery town. And there's always something that feels really wrong about it. In this one, it's like the perfect world, and then a child murderer shows up. So I was a bit mixed on it. And it's weird because I remembered seeing it when I was a kid and it being like, I love this movie.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it since I was 10. So it was interesting revisiting it. It did not hold up for me as well as I expected it to, because I was leading it up with like Dave, who watched it with me. I was like, oh, this is the greatest movie ever. Oh my God, you're going to love this thing. And then like 15 minutes in, we're like, well, this is really sweet. And that's it. It was just kind of sweet.
I got to borrow it from one of you because you really liked it. And
I really loved it. I mean, again, I don't know the difference. There's 3 versions of it on there.
Yeah, I watched the theatrical cut because I tend to kind of always go with the theatrical cut first because I assume there's a reason that it's the theatrical cut.
See, on this one, I went with the director's approved cut because he does an intro for it and everything, and I assume that's the movie that he wanted everyone to see. But then again, I'm curious because at least in the director's cut, I guess the biggest narrative issue is, the kid who's Lucas Haas in it, but it starts with him as an adult telling this story. So in that regard, you kind of already know that he's safe because he's telling the story as fuck
Lucas Haas.
Yeah.
You know my Lucas Haas story?
No. Why?
First motherfucker to kiss my wife.
Are you serious?
Get out of here.
First human on this planet who kissed my wife.
Hey now.
So
when she was 6 years old, the two of I've seen Super 8 footage of them kissing.
Get out of here.
I'm not at a birthday party. I'm like, oh, you kid from Witness.
You know,
Take your Amish haircut away from my wife.
He actually used to be, and this is really crude, but he actually used to be in a group of child actors in Hollywood that referred to themselves as the Pussy Patrol. And it was him and Leonardo DiCaprio, and there was a group of them that swore that like they were the hottest shit in Hollywood.
Bunch of weenies.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Luckily, there were 6.
I heard a podcast on the history of this group.
Yeah, Part's true because she has photos of DiCaprio when he was 6 to like 7. They were kids in the Hollywood Hills kind of thing.
Wow.
But I've got the footage, and because I always liked Lucas Haas because of like Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
But as soon as I saw that, I was like, ooh.
He was always the quirky one.
Yeah.
Listen, your wife was 6 at the time. She didn't know any better.
Yeah. We'll forgive
Coming for you,
Selena
Haas.
this time.
Popular listener, Haas.
But then the other 2 things I watched are definitely more kids-oriented, but it was really nice to revisit them. Since my daughter is 3, we were definitely looking for like kids' movies in the Halloween vein because she loves Halloween. So not remembering it very well, I decided to pop in the 90s cartoon for Ray Bradbury's Halloween Tree. Have you guys seen this?
No, I don't know that one.
It's just a cartoon version of Ray Bradbury's Halloween story, but he narrates it. It's narrated by Bradbury, and Leonard Nimoy is one of the voices. Wow. And the way that Halloween Tree is set up is it goes through all of these Halloween traditions. This kind of otherworldly being named Mr. Moundshroud takes this group of kids around and shows them where all of these Halloween traditions came from, like why we carve pumpkins and why witches ride brooms and things like that. So it gets into all of these different religions and cultures and how everything kind of comes together on Halloween, but it's really fascinating.
And it's animated?
Animated, yeah. Really fun. You should show it to your kid. It was really fun to revisit it. I hadn't seen it since I watched it for the first time, but it was really fun. And then one of our listeners, Tim Solomons, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly, sir, sent us Disney's Halloween Treat on DVD last week, which I had not seen since I was a kid. I just remember that it was narrated by this talking pumpkin that I thought was amazing. And it was like a clip show, like an anthology of all of these little spooky Disney cartoons. And so I watched that with Marnie, and I realized, I remembered midway through that they include the clip from Bald Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
From Fantasia, that Bald Mountain is part of it. And so like midway through, I'm like, oh my God, is this going to freak her out? Because it used to freak me out when I was a kid. And Bald Mountain starts and she's watching it and I see her eyes get big. And then she looks at me and she goes, Mommy, this is scary. This is scarier. And the last one that was on there was about like an ape who escaped from the zoo. And she was like, that guy's not a nice man like the ape was. And I was like, yeah, this is, and like the more I was watching it, I was like, it's got witches and ghosts and headless things. And yeah.
I wonder if Fantasia's scary because you put Mickey Mouse, something that's like innocent and familiar, and then you put that in danger and make it all scary and intense.
No, because it's completely out of the framework
the context of it,
of Fantasia in this. It's seriously like it was
he's not in that part.
No, it's literally just that skit.
It's just the night on Bald Mountain thing with, I think it's Cherbourg is the name of the actual like demon. And yeah, it's still scary as crap. I think that the music does a lot of it, but yeah.
In general, Fantasia scared me as a kid.
Way terrifying.
I mean...
And I will end by telling you guys what I was mentioning earlier about when I was out trick-or-treating. Like, we went out in Burbank, which is lovely, trick-or-treating, and everything was fine. And then we were standing in line at one of these home haunts, because people will set up a lot of little haunts in their front yard. And while we're standing in line to go through one, all of a sudden we start hearing the Purge siren blare. And then all of these people in Purge masks come pouring out of the house next door. And obviously they had all gotten together and planned to blast the Purge siren over like a siren in their front yard. But seriously, like it was weirdly freaky.
Did you sign any of the masks?
I didn't.
Like, I work at Blumhouse.com. Blumhouse.com.
No, it was just weird. Like you hear that siren and you're immediately like, oh, that's the Purge. And then when you see just like a house open up and all these people start pouring out, it was strangely terrifying.
There's still power to movies that have masks. That's one thing I noticed. A lot of teenagers were going as Purge. So, I think it'd be cool to see some Hush masks out there.
Hey, let's get that
kind of a fun one going
on. Let's do it.
In honor of Flanagan.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention before we do Bekah's game, so much stuff has popped up on Netflix. It's been so overwhelming, especially because of the Halloween season. But I just managed to watch the third season of The Fall.
You watched it?
Yeah,
okay,
I watched it because it's only 6 episodes like the other seasons. And I watched it in the last 2-3 days. And this was a show I talked about a lot on Killer POV, our previous show. It was originally only 2 seasons, and it's, Gillian Anderson's in it, and as a kind of an English FBI profiler who's in Ireland helping on a serial killer case.
Yep.
And the serial killer is played by, what's his name? James Dornan, the guy that's in 50 Shades of Grey, ironically enough, because of this show.
Which kind of ruins it, because he seems so serial killer-y in that movie now.
Yeah, because of this show.
Yeah, it's like I can't get rid of that image.
But it was on Netflix, and it's one of the more unique serial killer stories that I've ever seen, in the sense that they kind of switch the roles where you get to see every intimate moment of the killer with his wife and kids and family, and how he goes about doing what he does, and give you this weird insight that's like really kind of unsettling. Whereas her character is kind of mysterious. They hint at her backstory, and she's also very, business oriented, and to the fact that she takes what she wants. And it ended in a way, the second season ended in a way where the show could have easily ended, and I would have been completely satisfied. Close, But the fact that they did a couple more episodes, I was really excited about it. The third season's really good. Initially, when it started, It took me a few minutes because it'd been so long since I've seen it, and it picks up like right in the next moment. That it took me a few minutes to figure out who each character was and what they were doing with it. They took a very interesting approach with it, which I guess we don't get to see a lot, is the aftermath of a killer's actions. How does it affect his family, the people closest to him? How do the police deal with it? Well, like what does it affect them? Because obviously there's all this protocol on if you followed the rules the right way and what they can get away with, what they could charge people with, etc. So it started out a little weird in terms of getting my bearings in terms of continuing the story and remembering who everyone was. But by the 6th episode, it ended so freaking strong. Like it was so good that I kind of want to rewatch it now, knowing how they ended the 3rd season. Because there's definitely a lot of dense stuff going on there. But if you've never seen the show, definitely go back to Netflix and watch the first 2 seasons. And this was Netflix produced. So where it was a BBC show originally, this was an original Netflix production to do another season of it. And, Gillian Anderson, you may love her in The X-Files, but she's one of the best roles she'll ever do is in this show.
When this coincided with her role in Hannibal, and I remember them both. Oh,
yeah.
There's some crossover with those kind of characters. It was very good.
Yeah.
I like the first 2 a lot. I'll check it out. Yeah, that's kind of happened to The Killing. It was on AMC a couple seasons, and then the last one was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's nice that they are willing to tie up stories and give you that little extra that,
Yeah.
they've got the money.
Yeah. They do have
I'll
the
check
money.
it out. I'll definitely watch it.
All righty. So what do you got for us, Mike? What are we doing here?
Let's try some trivia here. Now, the first one that I'm going to do... First one I'm going to do is these are horror restaurants. These are restaurants in horror movies or horror TV shows. And I'll say loosely horror because if not, somebody's going to argue with me.
All right, everybody at home, play along, please.
So okay, guys.
Yeah, this isn't about me and Rob stumbling and
we're
failing.
We're going to be terrible.
Yeah, I'm not even going to keep score on this one, guys. Okay, so all you have to do is I'm going to tell you the name of the restaurant, and you just tell me what movie it's in.
All right.
Okay? Number 1.
Blood Diner.
God damn it, Elric. That was my first one.
Was it really?
Fuad Ramsey's Catering. No. Wait. Not Blood Diner. I'm sorry.
Oops.
It's not Blood Diner.
Say it again.
Blood Feast.
Yes.
Wait, what was the name of the thing?
Fuad Ramsey's Catering.
All right, well, whatever.
So now I'm pre-cognitive. This is like, I'm done with trivia. Mic drop.
But you get the Blood Feast remake.
I don't think they actually say the name of the restaurant in Blood Diner.
But they must have an exterior shot where you see it.
They have to. Okay.
Unless it just says diner.
Somebody tweet me
that's
that.
a good, we want to know.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the restaurant in Blood Diner.
All right, let's actually play.
Okay, guys.
What do you mean? I won.
Let her get one out before.
Dorsia.
Wait, is that me?
Yeah.
It's my turn. Oh,
or both.
American Psycho.
Yeah.
I got that one.
Okay, this one, I'll say it's a cartoon. Harryhausen's. It's a fine dining restaurant that they go to. It's a kid's cartoon.
Research?
That show you like?
A couple years ago. No, it's a movie.
Oh, a movie.
Mm-hmm. And they go to Harryhausen's. Rob probably owns it in 3D.
That's what I'm thinking.
Two main characters.
The Monster House?
Monster House?
No, characters are Mike, and Mike is the main character. Anyway, it's Monsters, Inc. They go to a cute little restaurant called Harryhausen's in it.
I don't own that, but it's okay.
Let's try Crova Milk Bar.
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
The Double R Diner.
Twin Peaks.
Very good.
Wow.
Woolies Diner. I wouldn't have known this one if I hadn't looked it up.
Give us a clue rather than the answer.
It's a remake. 2004 remake.
Ooh.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake.
Oh, damn it.
Winkies.
Mulholland Drive.
Yes. This one's a TV show, The Bronze. I've watched every single one of them. I think you have too. Both of you.
American Horror Story?
No.
Bates Motel?
No. Go back further. 90s.
Oh.
They go to The Bronze. It's a bar.
Friday the 13th?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No, I definitely haven't.
I know they go to the place, but I just don't remember the name. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen them all?
Yeah.
Okay. Acuna Boys.
That does ring a bell, Acuna Boys.
That's not Blood Diner?
It is not.
Yeah, you're right.
No, this one is it's
Sounded very
the
Blood
Restaurant and Grindhouse.
Oh.
Okay. Damn it.
And then this one plays into the guest you will be hearing from on Monday, American Chicken Bunker.
Poultry Guys.
Damn
Poultry
you.
Guys.
Damn you.
Okay, guys, and just to finish it out, I am giving you 10 quick horror quotes. These are going to be lightning fire, and you better respond
Just
back
for the
super
record,
quick.
I got the Jaws one wrong in trivia, so I'm fucked.
Bad Hat Harry.
Bad Hat Harry. Elric got it wrong. What the hell?
But I did get people under the stairs once to win trivia. It was like my glorious moment. Yeah, everyone McGill. That was my favorite moment in history.
All right, we're doing movie title,
guys,
right?
10. These are pretty easy. You just have to give me the title. My name is Horace. My name is Horace.
Monster Squad.
I'm going to do something now they used to do in Vietnam. It's called making a head on a stick.
House?
We had him on the show a couple of episodes back.
Bill Moseley?
Head on a stick, guys.
Bill Moseley?
No.
Cohen.
It's Australian.
Australian. Oh, Wolf Creek.
Oh,
Wolf Creek.
Yeah.
That's a rather tender subject. Anyone for another slice? Or another slice, anyone, I think is how it's actually stated. They just remade this on Fox.
It's a tender subject.
Anyone for another slice? They're eating meatloaf. Oh, dear God, you people have never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm not even going to kid myself.
Yeah, you should have known that.
You're forgetting one thing about Billy Loomis. I fucking killed him.
Scream 2.
Yes! Very good. At trivia, they got that wrong. That ain't cold weather approaching. That's death. Or sorry, that ain't cold weather. That's death approaching.
The Fog?
Set in the cold. Something's approaching.
The Thing? No, nothing's approaching.
It didn't seem like The Thing was right. No.
That ain't...
Dead and Buried?
Nope. It's vampires.
Vampires. Damn it.
That ain't cold weather approaching. That cold ain't the weather. That's death approaching. Let me read it correctly. That cold...
No wonder we got it wrong.
Yeah.
Cold
That cold ain't the weather. That's death approaching.
Lost Boys?
Might be set somewhere where it's night for 30 days.
Oh, 30 Days a Night.
No, that is cold. You're right.
Yeah.
You keep making movies I've seen
Antarctica.
like once.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that one.
That's my mother you're pissing on.
Dead
Brain
Alive.
Dead. No, that's wrong.
No, it's
I
Dead
get it
Alive.
because I said Brain Dead. Wait, look it up and find out what the first title it ever played
Whatever.
anywhere in the world.
Oh my God.
Everyone knows
We
it's
just
Dead Alive.
cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw.
Evil Dead 2.
Yes.
But not as good as the Big Lebowski quote. You know, my girlfriend cut off her toe. It's not fair. We're nihilists.
The dead are not quiet in Hill House. Oh my God.
House
Are
on
you...
Haunted Hill.
Yeah, The Haunting.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Haunting?
Oh, Hill House. Yeah.
Hill House.
And Beep Beep Richie.
It.
And my favorite. That was very student film like.
Ooh.
Well, that sounds like a Scream one too.
Yeah. I want to say like Urban Legend Final Cut, the second one.
Yeah. It does sound like the filmmaking one.
Too meta. They're watching a film that's inside the film, and then they go, "That was very student film like. It might kill you." Watching this film.
Oh, yeah. Ring.
Ring.
The Ring?
Very
Which one?
good,
American
guys.
or the other?
It's the American one. Yeah.
So I beat you on Diners. You killed me on quotes.
I did.
Okay, guys. We'll see how you do
cool.
next week.
Yeah, let us know
Okay.
how
Let us
you
know
did
if
on
you
that.
got them all.
Yeah.
Stuff.
All right.
Take
All
care,
right, we'll see you
guys.
soon. Okay, and welcome back to this interview portion of Shockwaves. We're really excited. I mean, we've done so many episodes at this point and had so many different guests on from all different aspects of the film industry, of the horror genre. But I can safely say that I don't know a man that has shaped us more in our formative young years than the creator of The Toxic Avenger.
And first filmmaking book I ever read.
First
in my
filmmaking
life.
book.
We
was
have
Make Your Own
talked
Damn
about
Movie.
having him on so much, and we finally get the opportunity.
He's a legend. Here he is, Lloyd Kaufman. Welcome.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, Shockwaves. I'm in shock that you said something nice. That's amazing.
And you know,
I mean,
we had a few weeks ago, we had Oz Perkins on the show, the son of Anthony
Yeah,
Perkins,
of
who's
course.
now a filmmaker,
Yeah,
writing and directing.
sure.
And when we asked him about his earliest horror recollections, he said when he was 12, he'd have 20 kids sleep over and they'd be forced to watch The Toxic Avenger, which we thought you'd get a kick out of.
well, you know, David Bryan, who wrote the music for the Toxic Avenger musical, which is I think it played out here.
He
was 12 when he saw The Toxic Avenger and vowed that he would write a musical about it. And he
That's
wrote
some follow through that.
And I'm not bullshitting you. He wrote that in the program in London. I mean, it was right there with his signature. So
That's
it's
amazing.
real.
Did you ever expect to see The Toxic Avenger playing on stage in London? Was that like something that you'd planned from the get-go?
He thought it would be a subject
Glad
for
he's like,
Bookie
when I make
Man
this.
musical, but you know.
I sort of thought Terrence Malick was going to.
Hey, it could still happen. He's more active now. You know?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Obviously, between trauma and just your film history, I've actually interviewed you in the past before, and you're always such a knowledgeable film historian. I mean, you love all sorts of films. You have a history with John Avildsen, which is fascinating. But here's the thing. I know nothing about young Lloyd, about little Lloyd who fell in love with movies. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about
Lloyd
that.
before I met Brian Singer?
Yes, that Lloyd.
Yeah, we always start with the Lloyd in college, but we want to go back and find out like what really influenced you as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, did you always, when you were a young man, just first watching films, did you fall in love with them right away? Was this kind of the trajectory you thought?
No way. In fact, my parents educated me very traditionally, all boys school, Yale, all boys, the whole high school, grade school. Musicals, theater. My mother was a theater person. And movies, she sort of looked down on movies. I didn't go to too many movies. And Oliver Stone, who I met in second grade, he and his mother were big movie fans. So I think I saw more movies with them. My folks were not big moviegoers.
You hung out with Oliver Stone in elementary school.
Yeah, he and I were very tight. Our parents were best friends. And in fact, he got into movies because of me. When we were at Yale, I was making movies. He was writing a shitty novel. A really shitty novel, and he started hanging out with us making the movies. And turns out he's a genius on the movie side, not on when the first book that you read, Elric, All I Need to Know About Filmmaking I Learned from the Toxic Avenger. Yeah. That first book, which I wrote, which was written by James Gunn, that book was in the back of. I was doing signings at Book Soup. And, of course, if you needed my book, you had to go in the back of the store or whatever. Oliver's crappy novel that he wrote in college, sitting there in the window of the bookstore. So.
Whatever, we all own your book. No.
Yeah, none of us read
Oliver Stone books. Get out of here.
Well, he's a legend. Yeah. He's in Battle of Love's Return, my first movie, and he helped. He was one of the producers on Sugar Cookies with Mary Warrenov and Monique Van Buren.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, was there something that really just blew you away that you...
I have to blame it on Yale University. I really had no intention of making movies. I was going to be a school teacher or a social worker and teach people with hooks for hands how to finger paint, to teach bums how to paint happy faces on beads and string the beads together and all that kind of stuff.
It's not too late.
Well, no, I've got an opening at Walmart.
Okay.
Hello, welcome to Walmart. Can I help you? So I got freshman year. I got put in a room with a movie nut who ran the Yale Film Society. A very small room. Our beds were head to toe, and at night I'd inhale his Godard stinking feet, and the aroma du trauma was starting to percolate, and I just kept drifting into the Yale Film Society and kept getting blown away by Chaplin, Keaton, Stan Brakhage, the greatest visual artist of my lifetime, except, of course, for Shock, for your podcast, of course, Shockwaves. Yeah. And finally, one night I was watching, I think I was trolling for gay Yale boys, and there were about 6 people in the theater, but they put on Ernst Lubitsch's To Be or Not to Be.
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
And it's better than the Mel Brooks
I
movie.
think so.
And Mel Brooks is a genius. I mean, Mel Brooks, his anthem is, our Trauma Entertainment's anthem is producers, obviously, and I am wearing a cardboard belt. But the To Be or Not to Be by Lubitsch is far and away a masterpiece. It's so crazy and so brilliant and so disciplined, and it's yin and yang all the way. And I majored in Chinese studies, and it's a perfect film. During that movie is when I decided I would give what I have to give to the People out there in the dark.
I remember a professor showing us Lubitsch's To Be or Not to Be freshman year of college, and it blew me away because I'd never seen anything like it, and it was so funny, but I couldn't believe that it was as old as it was, because at the time, as like an 18-year-old, I was like, no, humor is contemporary. How is this? And it just completely blew my mind.
It's a masterpiece.
It's amazing.
Well, every film Lubitsch did it's just, he was one of the greats, one of the all-time greats.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the Keaton and Chaplin, there's so much physical comedy that I can see how that strand definitely
Toxic
runs
Avenger
into your films.
Toxic Avenger 2 and 3, was lots of Keaton. Lots of Keaton.
Elric's son is named after Keaton.
Yeah,
I just have to say that.
2.5-year-old Keaton.
That's wonderful. That's
Michael Keaton. And well, I actually figured there was no bad Keatons. It was Buster, Michael, and Diane.
Yeah, they're all brilliant.
They're all okay.
Damn, I wish I was named Keaton.
But like, was there on the horror front, or like even just like strange movies, because those are classics and art house films? Corman's similar in a sense, because a lot of his influences were high-end art films that
Corman was a big deal
yeah.
because at Yale I not only discovered Leni Riefenstahl and Fritz Lang, and again I majored in Chinese studies. I had no interest in film. There were no film courses. I think there was one film. Stan Lauder taught a film history, an overview. I knew everything. I didn't need to go, but it filled up the dance card. And so I just started becoming obsessed with movies because of the Film Society and my roommate. And they had a little office which had stacks of the Cahiers du Cinéma, the notebook, the magazine of the French Cinematheque. And I speak fluent French, so I started reading those things. And they had articles by Chabrol and Godard and those guys who were just starting to transition into being movie makers from being journalists. Yeah. And I bought into the auteur theory of filmmaking, in which propounds that the director should be the dictator, really, of the movie, that his soul or her heart or brain or whatever should dominate. But I've never said a film or filmed Lloyd Kaufman. I don't think that really is proper. And every idiot now signs his usually white guys, his movie with a film by. I'll never. The first time it hit me was a movie about a volcano, Dante's Peak, I think it was called. It was garbage, and it was
Roger
horrible.
Donaldson, I remember he directed.
And it was a volcano movie with no lava, but it was one of those $200 million movies when nobody was making that kind of budget. Huge movie, and it's a film by so and so. James Gunn and I was sitting in the audience and like, what the heck? James also wrote Romeo and Juliet. Not sure what happened after that. But,
he flatlined.
I heard a rumor he's doing all right.
He's doing okay.
What was the first? I mean, if
Did
Corman
he join the Guardian Angels? No.
Yeah. There's something.
Yeah.
What was the first in that same time period of the, say, Corman, or where you realized the film could be made cheaply?
Yeah, Corman
with an exploitive value.
The movies that Corman directed are terrific, and the Poe. The Poe are like looking at Chabrol. They're just horror.
They're gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
So
Did you ever see the Shatner
lovely
film he made about race relations, The Intruder, I believe?
I have not seen it.
It's like the one which scared him to go back to making exploitation films, but it's such a good movie. It's almost like could have been an Oscar movie, but because they didn't make any money.
Well, The Trip. Every time I get to see his films on a big screen, I mean, he's great. But he proved that you could make good movies for low budget with good acting and provocative scripts. And not that I followed that formula, but and we're very good buddies. They love Pat, my wife, the commissioner. They love her, Roger and Julie and the kiddies. And clearly he's a big influence. I've never had the privilege of working with him. But
is that when it clicked, though, that you could... I'm always curious, like the moment you're talking about the new wave directors being one of the moments where it clicks that you could do that. Was it that or Corman's model that made you go, oh, we could produce a cheapish film, make a profit?
I think Corman proved that it could be done, but I bought into the. I took acid one night. My senior year at Yale, I was alone. I took LSD. And I had two job opportunities. One with the Owl and the Pussycat. Here, obviously, in Los Angeles, and another job with a crappy little company called Canon. And under acid, I took the Canon job, and that's where I met John Avildsen, and that kind of led me on that particular path, and stayed in New York, and then met the commissioner here, who loves New York. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else. So That's kind of how the decision was made. I could have either worked with the whiniest actress in Hollywood, Barbara Streisand, who starred in The Owl and the Pussycat, or Cannon. And then I met John Avildsen on the set of Joe, and we're still buddies, and got to work on Rocky and Cry Uncle, and he's a big influence. I think he was sort of, I would say he and John Badham were my film school. I got lucky. I got jobs on two interesting, even though they're mainstream movies, they are filmed by directors who are auteurs and who are smart and who film films from their heart and not from their pocketbooks.
Did you get a sense of it being special, being inside Rocky? Because, I mean, sometimes you're just on a production.
I had a sense of Joe being special. I remember to this day, the first day I was sent from the Canon office where I was cleaning toilets. They needed somebody, and I was the ale guy. They needed someone on set, I guess, to clean toilets. And I remember looking at the first shot that he was setting up that day. It was through a furnace, and I remember I went over to the camera to look through the lens. And then they no, you can't do that. You get away from there. You're on the union. And I said, what does that mean? A union? What? Who? What? And but I remember I'm going to attach myself to Avildsen, which I did. And after Joe, I worked for him for free, and then I got promoted to production manager. And actually, we raised some money for Cry Uncle. So Cry Uncle, I learned a lot. Troma's still distributing. It's so wonderful. If you haven't seen Joe or Cry Uncle, those are brilliant films. Joe is Peter Boyle's first movie with Susan Sarandon's first movie. I think I'm in it, and I think I get killed at the end of the movie. I believe I'm one of the hippies.
Your wife's confirming. You die
that may also,
as a hippie.
That may have been a wish, but we've been married 42 years, the poor woman. She was Pat was been the film commissioner of the state of New York for 20 years, appointed by both Republican and Democratic governors, which is incredible just to begin with, because film commissioners are political plums. She wrote the incentive, which has brought billions of dollars in jobs to New York State. And the reason I'm not able to stay at the American film market is Pat's getting a New York State award. The state's giving her a big award for upstate. Her incentives literally kickstarted part of the New York State. Was when we were there, we had drive-by shootings. We were filming Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead in Buffalo, at a derelict McDonald's, which we had to remake into American Chicken Bunker, our own fast food place. And we had two drive-by shootings. Wow. And we had a lot of people coming in looking for work, so it was not a very nice neighborhood. If you go there now, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And a lot of it has to do with the studios and the films being made in Buffalo, which, of course, then leads to other, the artists come first and then the other people. And Buffalo's doing very well now, so she's getting a big award. And so
Congrats!
We're going back there for
Congrats to you.
Congrats off mic character.
That's awesome.
So when did you get the confidence that or did it all happen by default? You're working on these films in New York, and I'm also curious about what it was like to make films in New York back in that period when you were working with Avildsen.
Well, I made movies at Yale. I made two feature-length films at Yale with my Bolex, which is for your listeners who may not be familiar. Bolex is not a STD. It's a camera. Although I've had just about every one in the book. It's a beautiful Swiss camera that you wind up, and it doesn't shoot synchronized sound. It doesn't have a sync pulse. So the three first features I did, The Girl Who Returned, was basically black and white. We would put on the narration track and sound effects and music, but we couldn't. There was no sync sound. Every once in a while, we could sync sound, an animal noise, or something that was easy to. And in fact, I didn't even have a moviola. I synchronized it on I edited on a synchronizer with rewinds and a synchronizer with a little with a viewer. They had viewers, and the 16 millimeter film would run through.
There you go.
And oddly enough, just today, a very famous director of photography who shot for Ed Wood and has done Ray Donovan now, and the Roy can't remember his name, but he gave me a vault print of Battle of Love's Return, my first sync sound film.
Oh wow!
In which Oliver Stone was one of the. He's in it. He didn't produce it. But it was Lynn Lowry's first movie, and there were some other people in there.
Wow.
Yeah, you can't take a shot over like 30 seconds with the ball. That's the fun thing about it,
Well, no, the Battle of Love, yeah. So those were the first ones. But the Battle of Love's Return was my first sync sound movie, and Battle of Love's Return, this camera guy, what the heck's his name? We looked him up. He's very famous. Crap. Can you find the top page, please?
He shot Ed Wood for Tim Burton?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a beautiful film.
No. He didn't shoot Tim Burton. He shot one of Ed Wood's movies.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Way back in the day.
Wood.
Yeah. And that gave me wood. And but he's done since then. He did one of the Nightmare movies. He did Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Yeah.
He did a lot of Ray Donovan's. Roy Wagner. Okay. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's a big
now
deal.
we know.
But how cool, this is Battle of Love's Return. You want to go back in time. 1970 was when I made that movie, and it got good reviews in the New York Times, and Judith Crist, and played a few theaters. And he had a collection of prints, and he bought a bunch of prints from somebody, and they threw in my movie. And it's a pristine 16 millimeter copy from Movie Lab that I think it was my vault print that somehow ran away from the lab. And how nice, he called me up.
He gave it back to you?
Yeah, he watched it. He said he didn't know what it was, and he watched it and contacted me. He loved it, and I just met him today, and he gave me the print.
Oh, great!
How cool is that?
Wow.
Yeah, we
Super
got.
cool.
We
That's
might
really
need a new version.
What a nice
to come
guy,
out.
Roy Wagner. What a nice
right.
guy, a nice man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who love movies, I think, always want the movies to exist in the right hands.
Yeah.
Well, there was another guy about 15 years ago who had a 16 millimeter print, and I bought it back from him. He had bought it online or something. I bought it from him. But this one is in perfect condition.
So after these movies that you had made in college, how did Toxic Avenger happen? So you're working for Canon at this point, and how did
Canon, I got out of it as soon as I learned a little bit, and I started getting jobs to pay the rent and making my own damn movies. Mm-hmm. And we made a movie called Squeeze Play. Well, I met Michael Hers first of all, and Michael Hers went to Yale, but is a couple of years younger. He was going to law school and did not want to be a lawyer, and his wife took her mother to see Cry Uncle in a movie theater and covered up the X rating on it. It came out as an X, even though there were full-page ads in the New York Times for it, and it had about 50 theaters on the break. She put their finger over the X rating, so her mother and she went, and they loved it. They loved Cry Uncle, and they saw that I was one of the not a producer, but I had raised some of the money. And she saw my big credit, and the next thing, Michael came in, and we decided we'd work together, and we made a movie called Squeeze Play, which was a raunchy women's liberation-themed movie about a softball team. It was 15 years before the much inferior League of Their Own. And Squeeze Play did very, very well. And we did 3 or 4 raunchy comedies, and then Porky's came along. And, we got in before that trend. But then the studios started making what we were making, except they were playing very unfair. They were using good scripts and good actors. So we had to go with something else. And Michael read a headline in Variety. It was one of the trades saying horror is no longer commercial, and something to that effect. So Michael Hers said, "That's it. We're going to make a horror film." And but we like comedy, and I like Frankenstein. I always wanted the monster to live, and I can talk for an hour on Toxic Avenger, but it was. Part of it was that what we were doing, and even though Squeeze Play, Waitress, Stuck on You, First Turn On, they all had sociological themes to them. The big boys had moved into our turf, so that brought us into the horror area. But we like comedy, which, as you know, comedy is the stupidest thing to do because it's only funny to about 6 people locally. Whatever's funny in New York isn't going to be funny in L.A., nor is it funny in Italy or India. Or it is funny in China because they bootleg everything. So they are pigs. They are Chinese pigs over there, and they bootleg everything. It's a fascist, elitist, they're exterminating the Uyghurs and the Tibetans, and their greatest artist is basically in prison. Ai Weiwei.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace that Obama even talks to them.
Wow.
But anyway, enough of that. And I majored in Chinese studies. My dream was to make a movie in China, but they've gone from they had the Liberation Wall the first time my wife and I went, which was a democracy wall, they called it. In fact, we put a poster of Squeeze Play up on the democracy wall in 1979, and immediately about 6,000, there was 3 women in bikinis with baseball gloves, and we had about 6,000 people within 5 minutes. And the cops came. But we didn't see them take it down, but we ran away just in case. And I think I ran faster than my wife. Run away, run away.
So knowing that you loved Frankenstein and wanted the monster to live, how did you come up with the concept of the Toxic Avenger himself?
Well, all the trauma movies are based on usually some kind of contemporary theme or sociological issue. And we used to camp a lot. And everywhere we went, there was garbage. And it wasn't biodegradable. The McDonald's plates and cups and the things that hold beer, 6-packs together, And the thing that really got us was there was a frog whose leg was caught in some kind of plastic stuff. And it was hopping around, and it was horrible. So naturally, I crushed it to death, and we kept... No, that is not true. That's not true. In fact, I've done pro bono work for PETA, People's Ethical Treatment of Animals. I made a short for them for free, and pro bono, not to be confused with Cher's bad skiing congressman husband. So I love animals. I clearly love animals. Took Rob a while to get that one.
It's the visual of him hitting a tree.
The visual got me, but that's what your early films just remind me.
So Toxie comes out of this theme of the fact that the Earth, this big blue marble, is being defiled, and at the same time, people were going to the gyms, the sports training institutes were coming into fashion, and so the body beautiful on one hand and the destroying the earth on the other. This is 1982, quite a number of years before Al Gore stole the Nobel Peace Prize and invented the internet. So it was way before his environmental genius, and that was pretty much. And then of course Preston Sturges. I was going through a huge Preston Sturges kick, and for those of you who are not familiar with him. He was the great satirist. He did 5 movies in a row that were some of the greatest movies of all time, and he was destroyed by the Suits. The Suits, you know him out here, the ones that like the guy that Fred Zimmerman, who went to did High Noon, went into a studio, and this is when he was in his 70s, and he's got some little guy in a suit. Mr. Zimmerman, tell me about yourself. And then Zimmerman says to the shit in the suit, you first. Right? so that was the issue there. And anyway, Toxie comes out of all that stuff, and Chaplin, Chaplin in his significant other in City Lights is blind, and the mop is basically the environmental cleanup crime.
Did comic books when I saw it as a kid, it just felt, and now comic book movies are the hugest thing on the planet, but it was a marriage of all these. I grew up loving horror movies. I grew up reading comic books and loving it. You mentioned Stan Lee before we were on air before. So did any of that kind of play into it?
Yes, good
mythology?
point. I never read comic books as a kid. My folks didn't really have them around, and we weren't allowed to drink Coca-Cola. I remember that. And I'd go over to Oliver Stone's house, and he'd have Pepsi-Cola, and he'd have Scrooge McDuck comics and classic comics, which, of course, I used for my high school book
He's
reports.
like your neighborhood Scarface. Like, no wonder he wrote that. It makes total sense. Like, he's the bad guy corrupting your Yale sensibilities.
We used to have, we lived, our parents were buddies, and in New York, we lived 2 blocks away from each other. So I would have sleepovers, and he'd beat the crap out of me, and I'd go home crying. I remember I went home once in my bathrobe. I walked through the streets of New York in my bathrobe and went home. And
Oliver Stone's like a wild one.
Yeah, he was pretty crazy. But we stayed very tight until he became a big success, and then he dropped me, of course.
Yeah.
And a good reason. And at any rate, the comic books, the things I got out of Yale, aside, I mean, I majored in Chinese studies, but the two things, drugs and comic books. The guy down the hall, the neighbor next to my room had a big collection of Marvel. And they were beautiful. These Spider-Man, I couldn't believe it, how beautiful they were. And as soon as I could, I tracked down Stan Lee. He was living in New York. Magazine Management was the name of the company. And he gave me a reel-to-reel tape. He said, okay, write a script. And he had some ideas that he put on a reel-to-reel tape recorder. And I listened to it, and I wrote Night of the Witch, which got optioned, oddly enough, by Crappy Cannon. And they didn't make it, but we got a little dough, and then somebody else optioned it. And then I had it set up at, I actually had some guys in Finland who wanted to do it, but by that time, Stan's partner said, no, Stan only is involved in A-quality pictures. So Night of the Witch will never be seen.
It would have been too maudlin if the Finns got their hand on it. Those Finns.
It's a great, well, it has to be Stan Lee's Night of the Witch. Nobody's interested in Lloyd Kaufman's Night of the Witch except for Lloyd Kaufman.
And the three people in this room.
Yeah.
Hey, you got us.
We're going to watch it.
So, well, it never got made. Somebody's got to put up some dough. Well, I mean, Stan's perfectly happy to have me make it, but his partner Gil does not want Stan involved in anything. What Gil may not know is that Stan's in about 10 of my movies. So Stan Lee is in all, and he's written introductions to my books. He's the best. He's terrific.
Did you?
We saw him yesterday. In fact, Stan met with the mayor of Los Angeles yesterday, and Regina, who's head of the whole the Stan Lee Comic-Con, was wearing the Toxic Avenger for President button with the mayor of Los Angeles and Stan Lee, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a popular write-in in 7 days, you think?
I'm writing them in. I'm going to write them in, I'll tell you that.
I was going to ask, at the time, the thing I love about all your films is, your wit for satire is brilliant. Like all the way up to Poultrygeist, I remember watching things, and there were so many modern relevant jokes and things that you poked fun at that you've always had a sharp sense of humor in terms of what's going on in the world. For going back to Toxic Avenger, you were really pushing the envelope on so many levels. Whether, with gore, the humor, the things you were poking fun at.
The sexuality.
Yeah. And I was a kid at the time, so I have no idea. It was like a rite of passage finding this movie because it was unlike anything I'd seen, and it was the one that went too far. And that's why we would have it as, sleepover party movies, like you have to watch this movie.
But check out Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High, which is a two-part movie.
I like part one. When's part two coming out?
Part two is crazier. It's the second half of the movie, and we're doing the sound design now. So I think you'll be very happy with it.
I like the first one a lot. In fact, I thought it had a great lesbian love story.
Yes.
That I really fell for.
Yeah. So. Well, thank you. And they have wonderful actors. Catherine Cochran and Asta Paredes are terrific. I mean, and they're hot as hell. I mean, the lesbian scenes, never mind how good the movie is, just that alone. With Toxic Avenger, every convention I go to, everything, for 30 years, there's always a 13-year-old kid who comes up and whispers in my ear that, Mr. Kaufman, that was the first time I whacked off, Mr. Kaufman, to the scene in the theme room, Mr. Kaufman. Thanks, buddy.
See, for me, it was Leroy's mama in Surf Nazis Must Die.
Well, that I can't. That was Peter George's movie, but we were the only ones who bought it.
Who would take it?
Same with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. None of the idiots out here knew.
Cannibal
the
musical.
musical.
I remember that.
None of them. We were the first on the train we were the first stop on the train. We were the first ones to seize on it, and of course Trey and Matt wanted money, which we don't have. And then nobody got it. All these people out here, when you go to Comedy Central, we always wanted that food. That's bullshit. Nobody would touch it.
Yeah.
And Trey and Matt certainly didn't want to go with Troma. But they had to because it was the last stop, and they were very happy.
We have an
They were very
article
happy.
that went up on Blumhouse.com today about the history behind Cannibal the Musical, the Alfred
cool.
Packard story,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I'd never heard before, but it's like a real-life cannibal in Colorado that they based the musical off of.
Oh, at the university, the cafeteria is called Alfred Packard.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Oh, that's funny.
And Stan Brakhage was the only professor. Did they talk about Stan Brakhage?
No, I
Colorado,
don't think
right?
so.
He was the only professor who gave them any encouragement, and he's in Cannibal the Musical too.
Oh,
The greatest visual artist of all time, in my opinion. Got what Trey and Matt were doing, understood it, and encouraged them. Nobody
Colorado?
else did.
He taught in Colorado. Yeah, I remember saying that.
Nobody else understood him.
What
And Trey told me when I interviewed him on the set of the puppet movie, a marionette movie, Team America. He said Troma's the only one so far that gave them any profit participation checks. So how cool is that?
Which period, what was the biggest boom period financially for, because all these different models have, boom and bust periods of the changing industry constantly, but was it right after Toxie where that was just hitting in terms of, and also the
video
VHS market
VHS.
and what was like the perfect time period for what you were doing and how many movies you guys could make? Because, obviously I see it in Corman's, work as well. The models keep changing. And what you're doing now, ironically, I just heard a podcast last night with Mark Duplass of the Duplass brothers. And what you've been doing all this time is now what he says is the only way of the future, which is to own all your material and brand yourself and don't do bigger studio stuff, because in the long run, it's going to be a bunch of like 3 big companies and they're all going to just have to license stuff to stream. And that's kind of his prediction of the future. And it made me laugh because I was thinking about you coming on and you've been doing that for 30 years.
Here's a bit of news for your fans. The Duplass brothers, their very first movie is a Troma movie that we bought.
Really?
But they don't want it distributed. And we're nice guys. We're nice guys.
Is it before the Puffy Chair? One made before that?
No, it's the first feature length.
Oh,
movie.
okay.
Yeah, but they don't want us to distribute it, and because not only we respect the artists, so we're not distributing it until they tell us. They told us they wanted us to wait till after the one where the guy's bowels. They did one with.
Oh yeah, the butt thing. It was like the horror thing last year. They wrote it.
But the
one about the little creature
Yeah,
that lives
Milo?
in
Yeah.
his intestine.
Milo.
Bad Milo.
They
love
said
that
wait
movie.
until Milo's out or something.
It's
but-
out.
I know.
Now do it.
I know. But well, then I called them and no answer. But they are in one of my books. I interviewed them in one of my books, and I filmed them also. The interview should be up on Troma's movie channel on YouTube. Troma, by the way, to thank our fans like you. Troma has put up. We're putting up all our movies on Troma Movies on YouTube, all free. It's all free, and also my short videos, make your own damn movie videos that illustrate my books. It's all there for free, as well as political.
But this is what I mean.
statements.
You're unlike a lot of filmmakers. You are able to brand what you do, and and never be off point with that brand.
Yeah.
Well, that was the original idea, was to make low-budget movies, put something in the movie that would be commercial, but then try to change the world a little bit. And to some extent, we've done it.
And what period was it? The period between the Toxic, like 1 and 2, where that as a mini studio?
No,
in a
fuck
sense,
no.
were done?
Squeeze Play was huge.
Oh, really?
Huge. Nobody ever saw anything like it.
Yeah.
And in fact, no theater, like every movie we do, no theater would play it. And then I was down in Virginia where we were involved in producing a movie with Kirk Douglas and Martin Sheen and Catherine Ross and a few others. And I got the theater to agree to put in AMC. They agreed to try a sneak preview with the Squeeze Play. It played with the Odd Cup. No, it played with the Peter Falk movie with
In-laws?
In-laws, exactly, right.
Elric's good.
I got Columbo.
Elric is amazing. You're amazing. And the audience went nuts. And the next Monday, AMC wanted to book the movie in all their movie theaters.
Wow.
We had like one print. I think we had 8 prints or something. So we started there in Norfolk, and it ran I think 7 or 8 weeks in about 8 theaters. And then Squeeze Play took off. And then Waitress, when it opened in New York, had 90. I remember to this day, they had in the New York City 92 theaters, 92 screens in the New York metropolitan area. Now, when we play a movie like Poultrygeist, 1 screen.
I remember seeing that one in New York. I think we were in East Side. I saw it with you, if I remember correctly.
Village.
Or was it
It
Two
was
Boots?
Village. No, not Poultrygeist. Poultrygeist was in the Village East.
You're right. Had a big marquee out front. I remember that.
Yeah.
But did the theatrical matter as much when the VHS boom finally did catch up, which is, I guess, Doxy,
It always.
right?
Well, our fans like theatrical. They like the communal viewing.
We do too.
We just came back from Santa Ana where the Toxic Avenger was played Thursday night, and it was packed. The place was, it's the Frida Theater. Frida Theater, which is an independent. The place was packed. They didn't have enough seats. And here's a 30-year-old movie, and they didn't, sometimes they have to show 35 millimeter, like the New Beverly here. They showed a Blu-ray. It wasn't even bullshit 35 scratched up film, which the Museum of Modern Art, which just showed Romeo and Juliet about 3 days ago. Just before we came here, they put Romeo and Juliet in their Shakespeare series.
It should be.
But I agree. But it took them 20 years to get that. And they had to have 35 millimeter, and the print was horrible. It would, the Blu-ray looks great.
So you're definitely on the camp, because this is like a real bifurcating argument in Hollywood. You're okay with showing your stuff on Blu-ray?
Yeah, why not? It looks so much better than 35 millimeter. I mean, if you have good prints, fine. But I know that Scorsese is restoring Lawrence of Arabia and all that, but nobody's restoring our movies. And we don't have a pot to pee in, so how are we going to strike a brand new print of Romeo and Juliet for the museum?
What was the last film you shot on 35?
Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead.
And then it's just all digital now.
We finance a bunch of younger people, but the first film that I shot, which was digital, was Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High, a.k.a. Volume 2, which was shot on the Alexa, which is a wonderful camera. The problem is it's more expensive to get that camera than our 35 millimeter cameras. On Poultrygeist, we had 3 35 millimeter cameras. This one, we had one camera. So that
and Kodak will now give you the camera. They'll be like, oh, just take our camera and shoot on film. We want you to shoot film.
And the insurance on the digital ones are insane. That's what always kills us.
The price of the digital, of the Alexa was insane. So we couldn't afford anything else.
Interesting.
Now, from just a pure directorial standpoint, which one did you find to be more fun on set? Did you like shooting digital?
Certainly
since
digital.
You've done a whole career on 35.
Up until Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High, I was wedded to 35 millimeter. But digital is better now. There's no question that digital is better. It's better. It looks better, and it is better. So I'm all for digital, but it took me a while. In fact, my book, Make Your Own Damn Movie, one of the writers was Trent Haga, and he and I have this huge, vicious fight about, he's trying to tell me that digital is better, and then it wasn't. For sure it wasn't, but he insisted that it was better, and and eventually during the book we start hating each other. We don't really hate each other.
Trent's been on the show.
Trent's the best. Yeah. He's going to be the next James Gunn that comes out of Troma, because he's just written and directed a wonderful film with the guy from Criminal Minds and another star.
Yeah, Gubler.
Gubler, yeah.
I've seen it.
Who's also a huge Troma fan. Gubler loves Troma. Oh,
yeah.
I visited. Pat and I visited the set in New Orleans. And Gubler ran off in the middle of a take. And
who's the most surprising person you've discovered was a fan of these movies that you just wouldn't have expected to? Like Anthony Weiner or something? I don't know. You're in New York, I'm guessing.
George Bush was in my class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a very complimentary. For our 25th year, we were invited to the White House for a
really?
Oh my gosh!
Well, it was a reunion, the 25th Yale reunion, and he said, "How's Toxie doing?" So he knew it.
I love that.
Wow!
I want to see the badge on him.
Yeah, I want him to be wearing the Toxie for president.
Oh, I would bet if he's there for Toxie.
Yeah.
The fans have put up President Toxie on Twitter, and he's got President Toxie has a few hundred. Followers on
so if
Twitter.
There's a recount,
it's fans who. Yeah, I'm voting for Toxie. I'll tell you that.
There's been so many people that have come through, and come up and gotten their start from Troma. James Gunn. Obviously the Eli Roth is one of the people that has done stuff.
Costner had a cameo.
Yeah, just
Eli
so many
Roth,
people.
If you want to hear a good commentary track, listen to the commentary on Bloodsucking Freaks Blu-ray. It's Eli Roth. He did the DVD. back before he was Eli Roth, and he's terrific. And he was so excited about it that we let him do it. We didn't know who he was. He was a graduate student who was Gabe Friedman's advisor when Gabe was at NYU. And Eli was really aggressive about doing the Blood-Sucking Freaks commentary. It's terrific. It's really good. He loves movies. In fact, Mother's Day, my brother's movie, is his favorite horror film. And he says it. I've interviewed him where he said it twice, and he goes into detail about the art direction, which my sister did, and my sister Susan. And so he's a real movie. He loves movies. He's terrific, and he's in a few of our movies.
Yeah, when you cross paths with these young filmmakers like that, I mean, what's funny about James Gunn, all through his filmography with Slither and things like that, I still see a lot of trauma in his movies.
Yeah, it still feels trauma,
which is amazing.
Well, he says that he channels me whenever it doesn't matter what the budget is. He channels me, whatever he's doing. And on Guardians of the Galaxy, we were on set. I have 2 seconds. You can see me for 2 seconds in Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. Murderer! That's my big line. But he said to his whole group that, after he talked about, I gave him his first job, he wasn't going to be a filmmaker either. He was writing books.
He wanted to be a novelist.
But his novel is great. The Collector is terrific. It's a wonderful, it's terrific. You should read it. It's about a kid who he sells drugs so he can buy toys. Most people would sell the toys so they can buy drugs. It's a wonderful, dark, it's James Gunn all the way. Yeah. And he said to everybody there, including the 2 stars, Zoe and Pratt, and the guy from Henry.
Rooker.
Yeah, he said, and there was thousands of them. You saw that set. I still channel Lloyd. I still channel Lloyd Kaufman no matter what I'm doing. Discipline, responsibility, blah blah blah. To thine own self be true, kind of thing.
Yeah, and is that the kind of, that's the kind of running an actual company, not just making the movies, because there's a whole other side to it. How difficult has that been to keep going over all these years, and how to maintain a brand and try to keep the integrity of the reason you've been wanting to make these movies? How different is Troma now versus Troma 20 years ago?
Oh, it's infinitely harder. We're more famous now. People recognize me in the street. And yet, it's infinitely harder to reach an audience because the rules that used to protect the public against monopoly have been done away with, and the rules, so the industry is very, very consolidated. And there's really, if you want to make money, you have to join up with one of the vassals of one of the devil-worshipping international media conglomerates. And I really hope I can join up with one.
Well, you're in L.A., so
after
it's a good chance.
Yeah. This is L.A.
No, I hate them. Michael Herz and I hate them. And
but that's what I mean. You've stayed independent all this time.
Yeah. We're the.
That's your lingo.
42
That's your logo.
Years. Yeah.
Real independence.
And soon I'll be wearing real Depends, so it all works out. And but they're remaking Toxic Avenger. Akiva Goldsman is he won the Oscar
for Beautiful Mind. Yeah.
And they just signed.
Was Schwarzenegger?
Well, Schwarzenegger was.
They signed Schwarzenegger, but they announced it at the Cannes Film Festival, and it was a big headline in Variety and Hollywood Reporter. It was on the front page, and suddenly I'm walking around the Croisette at Cannes, and people are, they're being nice to me, and then 2 weeks later, Schwarzenegger unsigned. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but that's how it works in the media, I imagine. Contracts mean nothing. Yeah. And then now they did sign, however, to direct the guy who did Sausage Party, and he's very good. Nice. He's a huge Troma fan. He saw Terra Firma and Tromeo and Juliet and Vernon. I can't remember his name, but I met him a couple of times. He loves Troma, and Sausage Party sure was Troma-esque. Yeah. So if they get it together and they actually make the movie, I think we'll be in good hands. Certainly the musical, the Toxic Avenger musical, written by music by David Bryan of Bon Jovi and Joe DiPietro, who's a Tony-winning writer of Broadway shows. They did a great job. I love it. My wife and I have seen Toxic Avenger the musical in London, Houston, L.A. We ran a year in New York, won every award for Off-Broadway. We saw it in Long Island. It's playing all over the place. And at New York, it went over a year. So it's a really good musical.
I wanted to ask you about, because you mentioned the Toxic Avenger remake. In general, when people approach you about remaking trauma properties, because I remember several years ago when I initially interviewed you, you had at the time said, "Oh, well, Brett Ratner really wants to make Mother's Day." I remember I posted that online and everybody laughed and made fun of me. They're like, "That Lloyd didn't say that. That's not true at all." Lo and behold, Brett Ratner remade Mother's Day. So you were telling the truth.
With Darren?
With Darren Bousman, a good friend of ours.
Right. And apparently it's a good film. The fans seem to... Nobody's complained about it. The fans seem to like it.
It's not the original. It's very different. But it's good for being its own product. It's good for what it is.
And because they wanted my brother and I to do a little cameo so that the fanboys would shut up, we went up to Winnipeg and did it. And on the set of Winnipeg, one of the guys who made Father's Day for us gave me the idea that, that was that Mother's Day project is what led to Father's Day, which has nothing to do with Mother's Day. And I thought it would be hilarious if we produced a movie called Father's Day that people would think that they think was, taking advantage of Mother's Day. And if you see Father's Day, it's about butt-fucking fathers. It's about people who fuck fathers up the ass. And it has nothing to do with with my brother's movie. And it's a great film. Father's Day is terrific. Those guys are so talented.
Definitely
I guess
one
what
of
I
the
was asking
best
is,
it's a wonderful
fucking
film.
films you'll see.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm asking is at that time when you told us about Mother's Day, like,
By the way, is that kind of language acceptable here?
Sure.
It is totally
Because I went to Yale.
acceptable.
I know a lot of good vocabulary.
You're good.
Thanks to Yale.
You had said, if somebody like Brett Ratner wants to make Mother's Day, that's fine if there's a payday in it. But if James Gunn came to you, if Eli Roth came to you, you'd give them trauma movies because
I'd run
of your
coffee for
relationship.
them. I'd give it to them for nothing. Sure.
Right.
Sure. In fact, Brett Ratner originally called me up and called me buddy and wanted the rights for nothing. And eventually we got a big payday.
Good.
Took a year or two. But,
Glad.
Good. So, do a lot of people still approach you about remaking some of
they
your
want to
properties?
redo Poultrygeist.
Really? That's
Yeah.
only like 10 years old, right? Not even.
Yeah.
I'll cut a check right now for Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD. Right now. You name your price.
Good luck.
Because that was
You're
a heck
more
of
than
a
welcome.
concept. That one.
But Return to Newcomb High, that wasn't even my idea. That was a guy at Starz who grew up with trauma, and it was his idea to remake our movies. And so I agreed. Obviously, it had to be on a low budget, but they agreed no censorship. So Starz and Anchor Bay, perfectly good. They put it in some theaters. They would, they lived up to their end, and they only have the first half of the movie. The second half, we're on our own. That guy's moved on to somewhere else.
Now, on the
Great
list,
guy, though. He loves movies.
we got a list when we were talking with your assistant about some of the projects that you have coming up, and I saw The Tempest on there. Please tell me you're going back to Shakespeare.
I think so. I think I'm trying to figure out how. It's a perfect movie for me.
It's wonderful.
About old people and dreams and drugs.
Crazy daughters and revenge, and it's such a wonderful story, and a monster.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea would be to have a made-up character, Toxie, playing a made-up character, Caliban, playing a real monster. It would be kind of... and then have Kabuki Man, a made-up character, playing Ariel. And I would play Prospero if I can't find an old person who can act, whose acting sucks less than mine. So I think it's a good one because it's all about losing powers and getting old and dreams and drugs. And so I think The Tempest will be pretty interesting. I just have to figure out how to, the beginning. It took a long time with Tromeo because it's got to be something we really love because it's not exactly commercial.
Yeah. Now, you just mentioned Universe.
By the way, John Brennan, sorry to interrupt, but John Brennan, my assistant, he produces Kabuki Man's Cocktail Corner. And if any of you go to Troma's movie channel on YouTube, it's all free. And we're in our second series. It's a sketch show, and it's very funny. It's doing very well, Kabuki Man's Cocktail Corner. So Kabuki Man lives even now, years later.
Nice.
And, of course, he had a big featured role in Citizen Toxie, the Toxic Avenger Part 4. He should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but life is cruel.
It's rigged.
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, because Elric mentioned universe, and that's one thing that always existed in the Troma films, is they all kind of took place in this same universe, much of it in this same kind of guttural New York setting, but now that setting, that guttural kind of gritty New York is gone. Is the kind of universe setting transitioning with it?
Well, no, because Tromaville is a fictitious New Jersey. Our movies are all about the underdog, and New Jersey itself is an underdog. So pretty much everything we shoot takes place in this really sad little town called Tromaville, where the little people they are victims of elites, corporate elite, the bureaucratic elite, and the labor elites, union leaders who make millions of dollars while their members are eating dog food. And those three elites suck dry the little people of Tromaville of their economic and spiritual capital. And sometimes the little people of Tromaville need Kabuki Man, who lives over on the water in Tromaville on the waterfront, to help them out. Sometimes they call upon Toxie, who lives in the dump at Tromaville, and sometimes they have to do it themselves. Troma's War. The little people at Tromaville had to save the free world. But they're all. But where do you think I got the universe from? That's Stan Lee all the way.
Yeah.
Marvel, we just had. In fact, Stan Lee said in one of the intros that the Toxic Avenger, in the same way that Spider-Man put a new face on the comic book superhero, Toxie put a new face on the movie superhero. And if you see Deadpool, those guys are huge Troma fans, and except they really did a great job. That's a wonderful film.
Hadn't thought about that. That makes total sense when I think about it. Yeah.
Well, they even do the Brechtian thing. I mean, I've been having my characters talk to the
fourth wall.
and it was a great. I love that in Deadpool that they did that.
Yeah.
And it's become stylish. When we used to do it, people used to lambast us for breaking the fourth wall, and now it's very popular. It's great, right? House of Cards, all these things do it. I mean, obviously, I got it from Brecht. I didn't invent it, but it was not popular in the day.
Do you still get excited when it comes to actually directing? Because I have a vague memory of when you were making Poultrygeist, which is now, I think it was 2006, you saying that would be your last time directing a movie.
I thought, it wasn't for, I thought that my swan song was going to be a chicken movie.
Yes.
But
you didn't care which one.
But I just thought, how am I going to get the money to get, our movies cost about $400,000 or $500,000. So how am I going to do that again? And Poultrygeist, even though it's a wonderful movie, and if you talked, Neville, Dean, and Taylor, the Crank guys, I'm in that movie. On Gamer, they came to see. They were doing Gamer, and Troma Dance was in. Fans were putting on Troma Dance Film Festival in Albuquerque, and one of the theaters there was playing Poultrygeist, and I was there that night, and they showed up, Neville, Dean, and Taylor, and they both were saying to the audience, I had them come up and say something, and they said, in a fair world, Poultrygeist should have made a shitload of money, but unfortunately, Poultrygeist. My wife's retirement money financed it. We lost a lot of money on it. It's very hard to get to penetrate the hymen of the mainstream without you getting fucked, and it's a different world.
I want that quote on the box.
It's a very different world. Thank you, Rebekah. It's a different. It's a different world. I mean, it really is tough. And Michael Herz and I are there because we love movies, and that's really what propelled us. That was what fueled us from the beginning. And luckily, we have a big, I can't say big, but we've got a big cult. For cults, we have a big fan base. Right. And our fans really, that's why we're giving all our movies away. Troma movies on YouTube. Everything, not the world premiere movies, not the newest, but everything up to there, we're giving them away for free. And they're all, every day we put up new movies or new short films or new make your own damn movie lessons. And if you subscribe, you get an email or an alert, and it's great. The fans love it, and we owe them everything, especially now.
So many people are saying that that's the model of the future because of the internet, that we're not used to paying for things anymore. Like, we watch things for free. Even if you're getting Netflix and you pay a couple bucks a month, you don't think about the cost.
Feels free.
Yeah,
Netflix,
it feels free.
Even though it's not.
So I'm hearing a lot of people
I never watch Netflix, even though I'm paying $8 a month. I watch it maybe once a month, and it's like, what am I doing?
That's why they have all that money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
And I'm
too
lazy to disengage.
That's how I am. I don't watch my Hulu very much, but I keep it because I'm like, maybe I'll watch it someday. It's $5. Come on.
Well, it's a pain to disengage. We have our own Netflix called Troma Now, which is all world premiere movies, and then I curate about 10 movies from our library every month, and it's $4.99, I think, a month. But so we do have that. If anybody, if people are rich, but our fans are pretty poor. So
what services does it go through? Do you know offhand?
Everything.
Okay.
It's on a platform called VHX TV, but it's on the Roku and whatever. It's easily available.
Right. You know what? The other thing I want to ask you about is this:
subscription. It's a subscription thing. Right. First month is free if anybody out there wants to try it. First month, Troma Now on VHX.
Right. You were talking about how important the fan base has been in keeping Troma going. As long as I've been going to horror conventions since I was a little kid, you've always had a presence there. Troma's always had a presence. How is, and I mean, it seems like that's an important thing to you to be out and meeting people. How has the convention kind of circuit changed for you over the course of the last 10, 20 years or whatever it is?
Well, the conventions, for the most part, are still nerd-fueled, and the fans are great. The nicest fans in the world are the sci-fi, horror, pop culture fans. The San Diego Comic-Con, which we have taken booths there, I think, more than 30 years, that has become like the Cannes Film Festival. It is really not a Comic-Con. I mean, it's totally different. It's all about the mainstream TV and the big movies. And
who can make the biggest splash and have the splashiest island in the middle of the con.
That's right, yeah. I mean, I think some of the companies are spending over $1 million on it. It's like NatB was in the day where Disney would spend over $1 million on their booth. And they'd serve fresh shrimp and everything. And the Troma, we'd go from our little booth, we'd go over to Fox and get in the line and eat lunch there and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but most of the conventions are still, we do about 30 of them, maybe a little more. And I don't go to too many, but we have people who handle the East Coast and up to the Mississippi. We have a guy in Georgia and Florida, and then we have people who handle the West for us. And
Megan's phenomenal.
Megan and Marcus. They love you.
I love Megan
you.
and Marcus. Yeah. They are wonderful, wonderful
we didn't
people.
know you were at, they were setting, they did the book. Sorry, I'm very Mediterranean. I use my hands when I speak.
It's okay.
When I speak, I keep knocking the mic. But they were talking about you, and they love you. Megan and Marcus, they love you.
No, Megan's wonderful. So they both are. I'll have to hunt them down at the next con. But speaking of you at conventions, so I was at Days of the Dead last year and had the most inspirational Troma moment where I'm sitting at the booth and I was there signing with Etheria, the Etheria Film Festival. And sitting next to me is this girl, like barely a teenager. And she says, I just directed my first movie for Troma and I've always wanted to talk to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You let a 13-year-old direct a movie, and that is amazing.
Well, she wasn't 13, but you're close.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not that far off.
Please give context to the story.
Fact check.
No.
Well, we've always been very receptive to people who are really eager to get involved with us, and the big mistake was Michael Hers, who somehow managed to turn down Madonna, who was desperate to be in First Turn On. She made her own costume for auditions. It was a summer camp movie. It's Vincent D'Onofrio's first movie. And Michael somehow, it was not what was in his head. Instead, he picked someone who couldn't act. That was apparently what was in his head.
Turn a negative into a positive. We were too good for Madonna.
Yeah, well, she owes us. She owes us. Had we accepted her, the Adams might have gone differently, and she might have been, not where she is. And I think when we gave her the kiss-off, I was not there. I think it was during Cannes. She said to Michael and Ilan, the assistant director, I'm going to be a big star in the music world. I'm going to be a star. And they were like, oh, well, good luck. You're a nice person.
Wow.
6 months later, she was on the cover of Newsweek magazine or something like that. And the First Turn On was kind of underwhelming people at the time. Although the First Turn On is hilarious. If anybody wants to see a funny, raunchy, R-rated movie, that is it. And Vincent D'Onofrio is hilarious in it.
Yeah.
But so Kansas Bowling is her name.
That's
She was 15 when she somehow got my email. She got my email. She was very aggressive. She came to New York with her mother to visit Tromaville. I wasn't there, but she had someone take pictures of her at my desk. And my desk is got a lot of crap. It's a kind of interesting set.
I have pictures of me at your desk.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Rebekah.
I do.
Well, thank you. And so she sent the picture, and then we met, and I gave her some money, and she made BC Butcher, and with no strings attached. I didn't say you have to give it to Troma to distribute. Good luck, and just thank me when you get the Oscar. And then we ended up distributing, and we're distributing now. But it got a big red carpet. It's the only movie in Troma history that's gotten its own red carpet. And at the Egyptian, it was a great evening. And she's terrific. I think she'll be the next, not the next one, but she will be in line after James Gunn and Eli Roth and Samuel Jackson and all those guys.
Yeah, she was absolutely wonderful to talk to her at
yeah,
a convention.
She's hilarious.
She's
and incredibly directed, incredibly hardworking, not afraid to go out and sell her movie, which is a big problem for many young filmmakers who think that art shouldn't be mixed with promotion. She's the perfect Troma. She's great. And the people that all her actors and crew, they love her. So check out BC Butcher. It's on Troma Now, and it's really good. And the first month is free, so you could see it for free. And here she is. She's now 20 or 19. What, Pat, how old is she? 20, I think, right? Yeah, she just turned 20. And she's directing. She directed a few. She did the new music video with the Death Valley Girls, and she's her boyfriend Rodney Bingenheimer, of course, is a major player in the music world. So he's opened some doors for her, and she's great. I think she will be a really great contender.
Do you have like a vision for Troma? Like going like 20 years from now, like way in the future, do you have a vision for somebody who is up and coming who you would entrust the keys to the kingdom of Troma and the vision of what it's going to become?
I think Troma has a life of his own. Certainly the Toxic Avenger. Yeah. All the movies and cartoons and toys and all that goes on.
Its own.
Doesn't matter who. I think Troma will somehow go along. I don't think anybody involved with Troma is going to want to be in fact, I was buddies with Sam Arkoff, who he and James Nicholson started American International Pictures.
Yeah.
And his biggest regret, Sam was the first one who wanted to remake The Toxic Avenger, so that goes way back.
Wow.
And a very nice man. But his big regret was that he sold his company. And obviously everybody's got a price, but I think somebody will. We have 3 daughters who are in the movie area, and Charlotte Kaufman has got a movie on Netflix now called Undecided, which is, in fact, if you want to see something funny about the election, watch Undecided. Lisbeth Kaufman has a startup called Kit Split, which Hearst is helping to finance, and it's been around for 2 or 3 years. It's an Airbnb for film and video equipment. So if there are filmmakers out there, they're out here in L.A. and New York and Philadelphia and Boston. It's a new idea, but it's insured and
you're being fact checked by your wife.
It's terrific. And yes.
1 year and a few months.
Oh, it's only been around for 1 year and a few months, but the idea was founded when they were at business school at Stern. And but it's a new thing.
It's a great idea.
And then the older Lily Hayes Kaufman wrote a script that NBC bought, and she's written stuff for us. So my guess is my wife is only 32, so she'll go on for a while. And, my wife would never sell it. So and Michael Hers is going to go on for he's a cyborg, so nothing's going to.
I'm not going anywhere.
But we do think about that, and what do? We've got a lot of I think we have 800 movies. Not all 100 of them we made maybe, but there's so many short pieces we've done and political things and cartoons
and you guys own just a lot of property like Bloodsucking Freaks and things like that.
Yeah, we own a lot of movies. When we had money, I wanted to buy drugs, but Michael said let's buy movies. So we've bought all these libraries of companies who died, not because they're bad movies, but because it's so difficult to get to the public, to get you can't. Clinton got rid of the financial syndication rule, which ended the independent film getting on television in any way. And that allowed the financial syndication rule required that the networks buy a third of their content from independents. And so that put the end on, it also permitted NBC and CBS to own movies. They could own the content. That was against the law, against the FCC rules prior to that. And now the establishment wants to get rid of net neutrality on the internet, which means that, I don't know about you guys, but pretty much anyone else who's truly independent, you guys may be strong enough to be able to go to the superhighway that they want to build. The phone companies and the big conglomerates want to have a superhighway for the rich and powerful, and then the rest of us are going to be on a dirt road on the internet, and which takes a lot of time to buffer, and that will certainly be the end of a lot of innovation and a lot of good movies and good movie companies. But we bought collections of movies from companies that unfortunately went out of business due to the consolidation of the media. Mm-hmm. Right now, you've got 40% of the American media owned and controlled by a white 80-year-old guy who's probably racist and sexist, and another white guy who's 93 years old, who we know is a sexual pervert, through, at least based on the newspaper reports. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion, by the way. I don't want to get sued. I think
disclaimer.
But it's, you know, they've got him in sex film. You know, the newspapers say he did sex tapes. So Viacom and Fox, 40%. Are owned by white old guys. And where's Will Smith with his Oscars so white, right? He's a big shot when it comes to mouthing off, but he's a puppy dog of those guys. Why didn't he talk about them? I did. Go on Trauma Movies on YouTube. We did Toxie and I and Kabuki Man and Tromets. We did a great riff on a rant on the Oscars so white. But that's the problem, the consolidation. So many companies, even with great movies, can't survive, and most people want to make money. Most people, we love movies, and we've got our fans who kind of keep us alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is some of the stuff that's coming up that you're most excited about in the not too distant future for Trauma? I mean, obviously the second part of Nukem High.
Return to Nukem High is going to be great. It really is. It's the epitome of Trauma, and our fans will love it. We're making a movie in Portugal by Fernando Ale, who made Banana Motherfucker, which we are distributing, and it's
may be the greatest name ever.
Good title.
Banana Motherfucker. I don't know why it didn't get into Walmart or Best Buy, but get the DVD. It's on Trauma Movies. You can see it for free, I think. Yes. It's hilarious. He worked on some of our movies as special effects, but he's Portuguese, and we gave him some money, and the Portuguese government has given him some money, even knowing it's a Trauma movie. It's called Mutant Blast, and it's going to start shooting pretty soon. And I think they start in 2017, but I've got photos of these. It's kind of a buddy picture. There's a big lobster and a big rat, and some hot female soldiers and stuff like that. But it's Trauma, but younger and really good special practical effects. You know, he loves practical effects. So that it's going to. And the good news is, just in case it might be successful, we're doing it in the Portuguese language. So it'll be the first Trauma movie in a language that nobody speaks. So that's going to be very cool. It's going to be a big hit, international hit. Portugal has about 6.
In Brazil, there's a little Portuguese.
Brazil is all bootlegs.
Yeah.
There is no distribution in Brazil other than the big boys. There's nothing there for us. But we're there to get our movies out. Yeah. We have, we're not. We would love to make money, and we have made money, but. The purpose of art is for people to look at it. So the most valuable thing that anybody has, and you're giving it to the commissioner and me right now, is time. Time. Money's not the what's valuable. It's the time is much more valuable. So, and I say that in my book, Sell Your Own Damn Movie, which at this point, when did I not write that book? Well, I get young people. I work with young people. They do all the work, and I take the credit. That's a very good lesson
Business.
for you.
Guys, we need to get interns to write a book about us.
Yes, I want James Gunn to write my book.
How long ago was that?
5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it was 5 or 6 years ago, and it really anticipates the notion of how foolish so many people are with these passwords and Vimeo. You know, I get these people want me to look at their movie, and then the password is so complicated, and I don't want to erase what I've already got copied in my computer. So I just don't, I have to either write down the number, it's so stupid. Just put it up and, or make an easy password, whatever. Nobody's going to steal their movie. And then after that, they want to try to get people to look at the movie, and nobody's there. Nobody wants to see it. So time is the most valuable thing, and that's what we're all after, eyeballs. People who want to see art. That's what it's about. Not Van Gogh didn't paint to make a lot of money, right? He cut his ear off, and that's about it. And meanwhile, now he was not a promoter. I'm a promoter. Picasso was a promoter, and Picasso did financially very, very well. And Van Gogh, arguably just as good as Picasso, never sold a painting except one to his brother, I think. That was it. Now he's, Van Gogh is up there with Picasso, maybe higher.
Yeah, his problem was sex tapes. Van Gogh sex tape.
Yeah. Well, I was at the Van Gogh Museum a while back.
This is going to stick. I'm going to be in a serious situation, and I'm going to say Van Gogh.
Teaching a class next week, and I'm going to be like, and Van Gogh's work.
Yeah.
Well, I was there when we were making Poultrygeist, and I swear Van Gogh, I was kind of crying. It was so beautiful. The museum is gorgeous, and his sad life and all that stuff. And I vowed to put Van Gogh into Poultrygeist somehow, but Gabe Friedman, with whom I wrote that, he thought it was stupid. And I imagine he's right. It didn't make sense.
I was actually listening to, or was I reading something? I swear it was an NPR piece that I heard last week about how now research has proven that Van Gogh did not actually cut his ear off to send to his lover or something like that. It was purely for attention because it was timed right as his brother said that his brother was getting married and they were considering cutting off because they'd been financially supporting him. And the next day he cut his ear off and was like, I cut my ear off. You have to keep supporting me.
Well,
so
by the way, it was not his ear he cut off either. They, according to NPR, he cut off his penis. And I heard it, I believe it was
really?
Donna Bazile who said that.
She gave him the answers.
Yeah, just before she cut all the...
I loved her work on Banana Motherfucker. Donna Brazil, your work on Banana Motherfucker was something special.
And she speaks Portuguese, Brazil, right?
Okay,
It's
I like the
amazing.
loop.
It's terrific.
God, I want to have an episode where we just talk in absurdities.
In absurdity,
I love this
the whole
idea.
Just go to Hillary's cast of characters. You got Homer, you got Wiener, you got Bazille, you've got...
Talking about horror films, I watched Wiener last night, and I couldn't even believe that thing is just... It's one of the most bonkers stories I've ever seen in my life. The
great.
access to a person
wonderful?
just opening their life to you in a terrible situation. It's just...
And meanwhile,
train
here he
wreck.
is again, maybe a big force in history.
Could have changed the whole election. You never know.
Fascinating.
We'll know in a week.
Wow.
Next episode.
Okay, guys.
When you think about Wiener and WikiLeaks, Wiener leaks...
Yeah.
Leaks with wieners.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. It's almost.
This
it's
is me
almost
reining it back in, boys. Reining it back
Wait,
in.
I think this is a pitch session for the next Trauma movie. Wiener Leaks. Wiener Leaks.
Wiener Links.
Wiener Leaks. It's a no-brainer.
Maybe Blumhouse would be interested in.
Wiener Links.
Put it on the wall.
Yeah, that's
We'll put it up on the wall and see how it does,
A
guys.
penis with Assange's head on the end.
Well,
that
actually,
talks. That's
we
kinda
have a
creepy.
character, the 3-foot penis monster, Harry Balls, who was discovered on the set of. He's in Romeo and Juliet, and he has a big part in Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. And he's been in almost all our movies.
He's a big part.
Terra Firma, he's got a kind of a walk on. I don't know, a hard on in Terra Firma, but he had bigger parts in pretty much every movie since then. And by the way, Volume 2 is Lemmy's last movie.
Yeah.
Rob,
man,
very sad.
yeah.
And Joe Fleischaker, our 500-pound action hero.
Yeah.
And we're going to dedicate Return to Nukem High to the memory of Lemmy and Joe
He was
Fleischaker.
Prologus in Romeo and Juliet. if I
He
remember.
Lemmy,
Yeah.
he sure was. And we gave him the most lines. He had the most lines.
Yeah.
And we needed, and I didn't realize I should have given him subtitles. After that, we put. If you look at Return, you noticed in Return to Nukem High, we gave him subtitles.
Which is hilarious.
But on Return to Tromeo, he does all the narration.
Yeah.
And,
But it somehow works because it sounds legit Shakespeare.
well, he definitely understood the part, but unfortunately he enjoyed his Jack Daniels and slurred a lot. So. But he was a sweet guy. What a nice guy he was. He never said no to anything we asked for. Even Mr. Bricks, which I didn't direct. Mr. Bricks, a heavy metal murder musical, was directed by our editor, Travis Campbell. And I asked Lemmy for a song, and he gave it to Travis. I mean, it's a good film, but it's not, Lemmy was a good guy.
As they said in Airheads, Lemmy is God.
Actually, Motorhead's giving us a song for Return to Nuclear Mine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Even after the death of Lemmy. Yeah, they're nice people. Very nice people. Yeah. Absolutely.
They're the track on the trailer for Tromeo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Boy, good for you. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Remembering all this.
Thanks,
Big
Rebekah.
Big fan.
You guys really know what you're talking about.
Well, thanks for the years
Thank you
of
so much. Yeah.
inspiration.
On behalf of us and our listeners, I mean...
Well, it's inspiring to talk to people who really love movies and who know about movies, and because a lot of the mainstream do not. And it ends up, Lloyd, Kaufman, tell us about yourself and... that kind of stuff, and it's, where do I start?
Well, we left you waiting, so we have to make up for it with something.
No. Yeah, I was pissed off. I was really pissed off. I'm sorry, Rebekah.
It's okay.
But
I feel bad.
I keep saying, I said to my wife when we were out in the cold street, look, we could be in Aleppo. I mean, you were nice about it. I was really pissed off because I'm a narcissist.
But by doing the show, you get a 3-picture deal, so, This is Blumhouse.
Wait, do we get this?
I'm pretty sure if I'm sitting here, I can greenlight anything, right?
Maybe we can work the penis monster into the next Purge film or something.
Well, we've written up a pitch for Class of Nukem High TV show, and it's a good idea. Save the Bell meets Deadpool. It's really good.
It's kind of adorable, guys.
It's a great TV show if anybody out there wants to make a series.
And also, I love that, to close this out, I know we're going a while, but I love that a lot of your soundtracks are coming out on vinyl now, because the Class Nukem High, the original soundtrack, is great. And I think Surf Nazis Must Die just came out as a vinyl release.
Indeed, and they're doing Trauma. Again, this has nothing to do with us. It's other people. We can't do. That's not our business. But they give us a little money and they buy the rights and they do limited editions and they sell immediately. Huge. Yep. They're working on Troma's War now. Aaron, who was assistant director on Return to Nukem High, he and Justin Martell, who produced Nukem High, Return to Nukem High, they're doing Troma's War now. But the interesting, Toxic Avenger, Justin Martell he wrote this Tiny Tim book out, which is out now, which is, if you haven't read it, it's a definitive book about, and it's really well written. It's if you're interested in Tiny Tim, it's a terrific book. But the Toxic Avenger, they had all the songs signed up, except one, which was Body Talk, which is the credit sequence. And that song was written by Corey Feldman's father. And the father told Justin, no problem, we'll let you license the song. They get publishing money. Anytime it's, all this stuff, whoever owns the songs get residuals, so it's good for them. And when the movies play in certain parts of the world, they get fees from the governments. But when they went around licensing up all the movies, and then Corey Feldman's dad changed his mind. So without that song, you can't have a Toxic Avenger soundtrack. So it's a pity. Yeah, it's a pity. So if anyone sees Corey Feldman's dad, tell him to change his mind back and put it on, and then there'll be a vinyl of Corey Feldman. There's a guy who looks like Corey Feldman in Citizen Toxie named Kinky Finkelstein.
That is a great name.
And you'll see him in Citizen Toxie, The Toxic Avenger Part 4. He's very funny. He plays a doctor. It's terrific.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming down and giving us your time. As you said, it is very valuable, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your time, and thank you, Rebekah and Elric and Rob, and the commissioner who's had to listen to this for 42 years.
And everybody, please check out Troma on YouTube, since you've got everything
Troma
there.
Movies on YouTube. It's all free, and if you're feeling like $4.99 a month, go to Troma Now. Well, the first month is free, and check it out, Troma Now. It's movies, world premiere movies. Hectic Knife, BC Butcher, Hunky Holocaust. Have you seen that, Rob?
I missed that one.
I've heard Banana Motherfucker.
Banana Motherfucker's calling
Banana
me right
Motherfucker's for free on Troma Movies. That's not a world premiere movie, but it's hilarious. I met Fernando because there was a Troma retrospective and in Spain, and they showed that movie. Mm-hmm. And my wife can verify it. I don't laugh a lot at movies, and I was just on the floor. It's so funny. It's hilarious. It's about the conquistadors, and it's very, very funny. You will love it. I guarantee.
That's on my list for sure.
Anyone who's a Troma fan, you will love it.
Nice.
You sold me
Well,
with
thank
Father's
you.
Day.
Sold me.
Father's
You're on
Day was when
Father's
you
Day.
sold me on.
Yeah,
that.
Isn't that a
Father's
good
Day.
one?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but your selling point of
Fathers.
butt fucking fathers is like, I'm a father.
sold.
Clearly, we have something in common in this movie. So.
There's a lot. There's a lot more to it, but that's where the Father's Day comes. Excuse the pun, but that's.
That's very funny.
Anyway, thank you all so much.
Thank
for,
you.
Yeah, and here's to the future of
Appreciate it.
trauma.
Yep,
Absolutely.
it looks
Real
good. We're
independence.
still going. We're still going, and independence lives. And hopefully, the Tempest will spread the word. Maybe there's somebody out there who wants to who would like to be involved in a trauma movie.
And we'd like, just to end with our fans, we'd love to hear from you guys your first trauma experience. It's always a really
That'd be
fun thing
fun.
to hear about how you discovered it and kind of the shock.
Yeah,
that you
tell us
probably
on
had.
Twitter or Facebook.
I on Twitter, I do all my own Twitter. So if there are any trauma fans,
cool.
I don't have anybody doing that for me. So
All right, yeah, we'll tag
at
you.
Lloyd Kaufman.
We'll tag you and have people contact direct.
What's your Twitter?
Shockwaves Pod.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then
But
just
you will
our
see.
names.
You will
I think.
see it. We will.
Yeah, we will-
reply to
You will be
me,
tweeted a
Harass you
ton
for
by
that.
us now.
I think I have seen it.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Lloyd, so much. You're a
And,
legend, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and thanks for answering me on Grindr, Rob.
That's how we got such a good guest.
That's where we
Yes.
end.
Oh yeah.
Toxie for president.
Yay!